Class is in session. College football hitting the book show for Monday, November 10th. Week 12 of the college football season is what we are talking about here on this edition. Ian Cameron and Connor Mack with you, ready to break it down. C-Mac, we got 3 weeks left in the college football regular season. What the hell? Where did it go?
It always goes fast. This shit every day is just, it's just like we're on the rat wheel or hamster wheel.
Spinning our wheel, spinning and on the wheel. It just keeps going.
Spinning.
Going.
But
the season's going to be over soon. Yep. It feels like it just started still.
But I love doing it. We got tons of games. Seasons change, and I love it. Same old shit, just a different day.
No doubt. We'll jump right in. We've got obviously a bunch of weeknight games, more MACtion this week, and that's where we will begin. This is probably the spotlight MACtion game of the weeknight matchups here in MAC play. It's a battle for first. These are two teams that still could very much win the MAC. We've got Ohio and Western Michigan. Ohio 1.5 point road favorites in Kalamazoo. The total here 47 across the board here in this game. Ohio with a big victory last week against Miami, Ohio, another team that's been battling for first. We've got a 4-way tie for first in the MAC right now. Ohio, Buffalo, Miami, Ohio, and this team here, Western Michigan, that they will be playing. Give a major quarterback edge to Ohio, no question. I'll take Parker Navarro any day of the week over Brock Lowry, who is still, pretty much a work in progress, I would say, for Western Michigan. Defensively, though, I'll say this about Western Michigan. Their defense has come on here as the season's gone on, especially in conference play. You look at the games. Now, UMass, Ball State, take those with a grain of salt. But, Central Michigan, they did struggle with Miami, Ohio, and gave up 26 points in that game. We'll see how this one plays out. Ohio has actually beaten Western Michigan 2 straight times. They didn't face each other last year, but 2022 and 2023, Ohio got victories both times against Western Michigan. We'll see how this game plays out. But I'm not fading Ohio personally, Connor Mack, because I think this team, there's a bunch of teams that could win this conference. And yes, every team's probably had that one game where it's like, what the hell happened to them? No team has gone through the MAC so far unscathed. But I do think Ohio defenses can be good enough. I like the way they played defense last week, certainly against Miami, no doubt. And I just think they got probably the best quarterback in this conference, because I really, really do like Parker Navarro, and that could be the difference here. So, pick them. It's Ohio or nothing for me. Look, it is a strong home field, Western Michigan. And the one issue Ohio has had is they do just have the one road win on the season to this point. Now, again, Ball State they lost as a big road favorite. And then their other road games were Rutgers and Ohio State out of the Big Ten early in the season. Don't forget, they almost beat Rutgers in that game. But their last road game, they did beat Eastern Michigan. What's funny about this team is in MAC play on the road, they're 0-2 against the spread. The loss to Ball State, and they did not cover in the win against Eastern Michigan. But we're talking about just asking Ohio to win the game. And, I'm not saying I will for sure be on Ohio, but it's the only side I'm interested in at this current number. C-Mac, what do you think here?
Shout out to the guys in the chat. Coffee, the guy, FB, woo, Kenny Woo, as always. Appreciate you, my guy. Supported us a long, long time. Appreciate it. Yeah, if I don't love these midweek games, I'm just going to have to stay off. It kept me off the Ohio game last week, we talked about with Miami, Ohio. And they got that late touchdown in a really good football game. When I see this, in a MAC game, I want this under. When I look at it with kind of these defenses, you talked about how Western Michigan has been playing as of late. And with these quarterbacks, we saw Navarro. He had that pick early last week, but he's been pretty good. I'd like to see him. I just don't really want them on the road. If you think this is cheap with Ohio, I think you take them. I think this is like a tight game, dogfight. And on the other side, quarterback, let's touch on Lowry. The guy's been pretty good. I mean, he's not asked to do too much. He throws like 150, 200 yards.
Yeah, he relies on the ground game. Yep.
Ground game. He hasn't turned the ball over, which is huge so far. That always gives me pause. We'll talk. There's a few quarterbacks that have had unbelievable numbers, and it seems like I always think this is just. I mean, it's just the gambler, and after all these years, he's got 20 TDs and no picks. What's coming here? Man, a bad game, where he throws 2 or 3 picks. It's just real, being real with that. So, yeah, I'm a little shocked. This is, I get 1.5. You know what I mean? Highly to the home team here in Western Michigan. It's just you basically have to take a money line, unless you want this 1.5 at home. Place should be pumped up, I think, to have a home game against big bad Ohio in the MAC.
Yeah, it should be a good one. This is a very intriguing game. I do think there's a little defensive edge for Western Michigan compared to Ohio, but this is the best offense they played in the MAC, Western Michigan. The one thing you have to factor in here is Western Michigan's played UMass, Ball State. I'm not a big DeQuan Finn guy, and even he put up 26 on them. And then Central Michigan. I think this is the most dynamic quarterback that they have seen this season so far in the MAC. So still questions about whether Western Michigan can do enough to contain him. Like I said, I just think they're the class at the moment. If I had to pick who's the class of the conference, I think it's Ohio. So from that standpoint, that's why, for me, it's Ohio or pass in this game. All right, Kent State and Akron. We've got Akron 6-point home favorites, 46.5 the total. This is also a Tuesday night game in the MAC. Akron, obviously, look, that shows you how bad UMass is. Holy goodness. I mean, 44-10. Akron laying a beatdown over the UMass Minutemen, and they were only laying 11.5 in that game and won and covered with ease. Ben Finley was very solid, and more importantly, Jordan Gant on the ground just ripped apart that UMass hideous run defense for 2 rushing touchdowns and 153 rushing yards in that game over UMass. That shows you UMass is just atrocious. I mean, they are absolutely right there as one of the worst teams in the country, Division I college football right now. We'll see how they fare here against Kent State. Kent State coming off a actually competitive showing against Ball State last week, but offense just really couldn't get over the hump. DeShields was erratic all over the place, couldn't get the run game going. You look at Ball State, and it was a game they did enough offensively. Kent State actually outgained Ball State despite losing that game last week to the Cardinals. What ended up hurting, unfortunately, was unable to finish drives really from that Kent State offense. Turned the ball over on downs a couple of times, so that ended up being the difference in that game. This is probably one I'm not going to have a strong opinion on, other than you look at Akron these last 2 games, 2-0 straight up, 2-0 against the spread, and you go back further than that, 3 games. Their offense has started to hum a little bit here in conference play. Other than Miami O, who's got one of the better defenses, Chuck Martin always has a pretty good defensive team. Other than that, Akron scored 28 against Central Michigan in a win as a dog, 28 in a loss to Ball State, 24 when they beat Buffalo outright as an underdog, and then the 44 spot last week against UMass. So I think Akron can probably score some points here. Can you get something from this Kent State team? Because everyone scores on UMass, and Kent State did put up 42 points against UMass, but other than that, they got held to 10 by Toledo. Did score 24 against Bowling Green in an outright win a couple weeks ago, 13, and struggled to finish drives last week against Ball State. But I'm inclined to lean a little bit here over the total in this game. The side's tough, but I don't know if I want to step in front of Akron. Do I want to lay 6 with them? Not so sure about that, but Akron has definitely turned a little bit of a corner here. Back-to-back wins by margin against Buffalo and UMass. So, but you are talking in-state game here between these 2 teams. So I don't want to get in front of the nice little uptick we've seen out of Akron here in recent games, but doesn't mean I'm running to lay 6 points either. With the Zips in this game. I think the over is probably the stance that I prefer, side or total here. C-Mac, what do you think? Kent State, Akron.
Randall, my dude, great to see you, my guy. Up and in here. Early and Adam, Monday college football. Can't beat it, right, Evan? Yep. Don't you love doing this shit?
Yep.
All right, well, I'll take fucking Kent State. Fuck Akron. All right? Give me the points here with them. A whole lot of love. Both these teams beat the shit out of UMass. One thing with Kent State, I think it's a little skewed because all those great teams they play, good teams. Florida State's gone downhill, Oklahoma, Texas Tech, just losing last week in that,
That said, they still tested
ball game.
themselves very nicely in the non-conference. Kent State, they did. Yep.
Yeah. So I think they're live here. I think this is way too big. A lot of love for Akron after a big win. I just love it. I want to fade the shit out of them in this game. Nothing changes. One thing with Kent State, both these offenses suck. Akron's a little bit better. Kent State's awful. Only 271 yards a game. That's 135th. They don't run the ball. Hate teams that can't run it. We talk about all the time. 132nd, only 87. But Akron's got a horrible run defense. They should be able to get a little bit more in this game, right? You think? I mean, they gave up almost 170 this Akron. So I think they're just too similar, going through everything here on the board. And I think even though they're at home, I think it's a steal. The Kent State team that's playing a lot better of late. Got to win against Bowling Green. Tight game against Ball State. Give me the 6 here all day long.
All right, there you go. Strong recommendation.
Strong.
Plus the 6 against Akron. All right, Northern Illinois and UMass. Northern Illinois, 11.5-point road favorites, 43.5 the total. I mean, is that where we're at now with UMass? They are so friggin' putrid that we're being asked that we're asking Northern Illinois now to lay double digits on the road against them. Holy mackerel. What are you going to do here? I mean, they just got blown out on the road 38-13 and 44-10. They lost at home to Buffalo 28-21. They did cover as home dogs, though. They did cover as home dogs against Buffalo the last time they were double-digit home underdogs like this. But on the road, they've been that's the tricky part of this game. On the road, they've been eviscerated over and over again. And it doesn't matter who they played, whether it's Iowa, Missouri, out of power conferences, whether it's Kent State, 42-6, Central Michigan, 38-13, Akron last week, 44-10. They've been just obliterated on the road, but they're at home here for this game. And on the flip side, you got a Northern Illinois team that is going on the road, and here's what they've done on the road in MAC play. 16-10 loses at Pick'em against the Eastern Michigan Eagles. 10.5-point road dogs. They lose 48-21 at Ohio. And then 16.5-point road underdogs last week. They lose 42-3 against Toledo. So that's not exactly a track record of, let's lay 11.5 on the road. This is an impossible game. But gosh almighty, I mean, if I were forced to place a bet on the side, I'd probably take, hold my nose and pray and take UMass. Simply because I think the last time we saw them at home, they lost by 7 against Buffalo. And I do not trust Northern Illinois, especially on the offensive side of the football in a price range like this. But there's no chance I'm betting it. C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know if I can get here in this game. I think UMass here at home.
I know you guys are really, really fucking terrible, UMass. But come on here. Wednesday night, isolated. You're going to get on national TV here in Amherst, Massachusetts here for a rare home game on national. Come on, can you show up for one? We'll see. I don't know. Maybe they're that bad, but
I think they might be that bad. Northern Illinois, another team, just been horrible on the road. And then you're in a spot like this, you got to lay 5. UMass. Let's just say this: bad home and road. Just dead horrible team here. This is another team we just hit on before with UMass that can't run the ball. Like, it's just a struggle. Real bad. I mean, they can't throw it either. Just 240 yards a game.
Northern Illinois was only plus 24 in total yards last year when they played against UMass. I know that they won by 14, but they were only plus 24 in the yardage margin last year when they met. So that's why I lean to the home dog here. I just got Northern Illinois on the road laying these points for as bad as UMass is. I can't do it.
When I see this, I have to dare this team that scored more than 20 points one time.
Yeah.
To get over their team total. It's possible. But 6, 3, 3, 21, 13, 10. I just think Northern Illinois still has a pretty good defense. It keeps them in ball games because, the struggles that they've had offensively. So I just think you take UMass's team total under here would be the look. And if they're in this game, the problem with it is their defense has been just so bad. That they can't keep them in a game. If they could play against an offense that isn't great here in Northern Illinois, maybe hang around, it has to be low scoring. But I don't know if they could do that. This team gives up a shit ton of points, doesn't score a lot of points. Bad fucking combo. Bad combo. Trying to win football games. So, yeah. Team total under UMass.
All right, next up, we've got Toledo and Miami, Ohio. Toledo, 3.5-point road favorites, 44.5 the total in this game. Here's a game I can finally sink my teeth into from a betting perspective. Give me Chuck Martin and that Miami, Ohio team as a home dog here, plus 3.5. I am not sold on Toledo's offense against some better defensive competition. I've seen enough of it. I've seen enough Tucker Gleason, the veteran quarterback for Toledo, to know he sometimes goes into he can sometimes be on just rip you apart, and then he can go 4 or 5 drives in a row where they can barely muster a first down. And usually some of those games for Toledo have come against the better defenses that they have faced. And you look at their road track record this year and going back under Jason Candle, it's not always been pretty. You look at their road efforts in the MAC so far. Western Michigan, 13.5-point road favorites, losing outright, 14-13. 11.5-point road favorites to Bowling Green. They had that 20 or 14-0. I was 21-0 lead in that game. And somehow they ended up letting Bowling Green come all the way back to beat them, 28-23. And that was after Drew Pine got injured for Bowling Green. They were down to Anderson and R.J. Garcia as their quarterbacks. And Bowling Green still was able to come back and beat Toledo. Another outright loss as a favorite on the road for the Toledo Rockets. I have no faith in them as in this kind of a price range on the road. I just don't. Now, at home, if you want to lay points with Toledo in the Glass Bowl, go for it. They've been very good at home. But on the road, it's Jekyll and Hyde. It's like a different football team. You know, they destroyed Kent State and Northern Illinois and Akron all at home. And then they go on the road, and they're double-digit chalk. And not only are they not covering, they're losing games outright. Like I said, to Western Michigan and Bowling Green. Miami, tough loss for them last week against Ohio, 24-20. It was a back-and-forth kind of game. I think in the end, their defense, look, credit to Parker Navarro. He got things rolling. They couldn't really contain Bangura, the really good running back for Ohio. He did some damage against Miami last week. But the overall numbers are still very solid, CMAC, for the defense. They're holding foes to 3.5 yards per carry on the ground so far this season, 3.8, which is pretty respectable when it's all said. I like their secondary. They're only giving up 42nd most passing yards per game. And when it comes to Toledo's offense, they're pretty balanced. They run, they throw, they can do both. But Miami's pretty adequate at stopping both the run and the pass. So, and by the way, that loss did not really hurt Miami, Ohio, the Redhawks last week, because they're still 4. That was their first conference loss to Ohio last week. So they're still at 4-1 in MAC play. They're still in that 4-way tie with Western Michigan, Buffalo, and Ohio for first in the conference, and still very much alive to make it to the MAC championship game. So I expect a bounce-back game. We like Chuck in this role, especially Chuck Martin in this role in the MAC as an underdog. We know in non-conference at times he's had issues stepping up and kind of takes a beat down and tries to just get his team to get ready for the MAC. This is the point spread range, and these are the spots that historically in all his years here coaching Miami, Chuck Martin's been really good in these spots. So I'm going to take him. Miami plus 3.5 and fade a Toledo team that is still over against the spread in MAC road games this season. What do you think here, C-Mac? Toledo, Miami.
Yeah, they're only cover 0-4 on the road. 1-3 that opening game. They kind of snuck in that low scoring game. Kentucky, yeah. That was fucking ugly game.
We're getting a boatload of points there. Yeah. So
bunch in that one. Here we got Miami, Ohio, just a team that's better at home.
Here's an angle. I forgot to mention this before you continue.
Hit it.
I'm not a big DeQuan Finn guy. You guys know that. But a little revenge angle here. He used to be the quarterback for Toledo years ago. I think that was the very first school he played quarterback for in college was Toledo. So a little bit of a, hey, let's stick it to them kind of element to this matchup here for Miami as he plays against his old team. So DeQuan Finn gets to try to beat his old squad.
When I look at this total, it's under nothing here with these defenses. I know it's not huge here, but 44.5. I'd only be on the under. Miami, Ohio's got to keep this how they play football. Good defense, run the ball, which they can. Don't turn the ball over. One thing with Toledo, though, when they've stepped up and gone on the road, they've given it up to some teams. But this defense, though, is pretty good. And I don't know how, and I think they could stop Miami, Ohio a little bit in this game as you look through it. But one thing, I think both teams, they want to run the ball, but both run defenses are pretty good. I think it kind of like cancels out in this way. So, yeah, to me, this is Miami, Ohio. Awful loss at home. This is classic. We talked about Toledo at home maybe, and they kicked Northern Illinois' ass, big time. So this is classic. Everyone sees it. I bet you that all this is, we're here now, but already the early money and later might be on Toledo as well. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it seems like the public is enamored with Toledo. If anyone that if the public does bet the MAC football routinely, it does feel like they have taken the money in certain games this year. Toledo, I've noticed that. We'll see if that is.
And after a big win,
yeah,
just a big, nice home beatdown. Yeah.
All right, our last of the MAC weeknight games. This is also a Wednesday night game. Buffalo, Central Michigan. We've got Central Michigan, 2-point home favorites, 43 and a half the total. Buffalo is another of the four teams in that mix for the MAC title at 4-1 in conference play. And, we just talked about Toledo. They're 3-2 in conference play. The 3-2 teams aren't fully out of it yet either by any stretch.
Oh, no, it's a whole throw up for all these teams. Yeah.
No doubt. Yeah. And Central Michigan is one of those 3-2 teams. So there's still a lot to play for them against Buffalo. And Buffalo, like I said, still very much alive here as well for the MAC championship, even though it has been, tough sledding point spread wise for Buffalo in conference play. Last week against, or 2 weeks ago against Bowling Green was their first
best game they played.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In MAC play. It was. They were dominant. 28-3. I still need to see better from Roberson at quarterback. I think we're starting to see why he's been bounced around from school to school the last few years. He needs to be a little more consistent. But Al-J Henderson, when you got him running the ball like he did against Bowling Green, that certainly is going to help your cause. He had 146 rushing yards against Bowling Green, and they completely shut down Drew Pine in the Bowling Green offense, held them to just 216 yards. And that's where Buffalo, I was impressed with them. They finally, on defense, they were showing a few holes there for a bit, giving up 24 points and losing as a double-digit favorite to Akron. Shouldn't be happening, but they allowed it to happen. But the defense kind of got back on track. Both teams are off the bye, so there's really no advantage there. How about this Central Michigan team? They have gone 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 games. Now, you look at their performances. They beat EMU. The bad loss for them was losing as a favorite at Akron, but they steamrolled Bowling Green. They crushed UMass. I thought they were very competitive last week against a pretty solid Western Michigan team, or 2 weeks ago, I should say, before their bye week, 24-21. And when you look at that game, Central Michigan with Joe Labas, the quarterback, through a decent game. They could not run the football, though, and this is a team that wants to run the football because their head coach, Matt Drinkle, he came over from Army, where all they do is run the football. So that's what they want to do. They want to establish the run. They really couldn't against Western Michigan, and yet they were still, as far as, right in the game. So you give them credit. Their defense kind of hung in there. When I look at Buffalo here, as far as the defensive side of the football, they're giving up. They've actually been pretty solid against the pass, but they are weaker against the run, the Buffalo Bulls. They're giving up 139 per game on the ground, rushing yards. So 57th in the country. It's not terrible. It's like middle of the pack, but they are weaker against the run, Buffalo on D, than they are against the pass. And that plays pretty well into Central Michigan's offensive philosophy, which is run heavy. You look at CMU, CMAC, the Chippewas, 13th in rush attempts this season, whereas they are 132 in pass attempts. Like I said, this is pretty much like an option offense. They don't ask Labas, the quarterback, to do a whole lot. They definitely want to run the football. So both teams off a bye. Those things cancel out. Central Michigan, with the fact they've covered 5 and 6, kind of tells me they've been maybe a little bit more of the undervalued commodity, even more so than Buffalo, because Buffalo is just 1 and 6 against the spread in their last 7 games. So see 3-0 straight up at home this year too for Central. I kind of think Central is my lean here. Central Michigan laying less than a field goal in this one. C-Mac, what do you think? Buffalo, Central Michigan.
Yeah, that's how I kind of thought in this game. I doubt I get involved in this one. This is another one to hit on as these defenses play better. Both these teams are slow. Hit on the last few. Miami, Ohio, we talked about. Central Michigan, 131. Kent State, 135. These games are Buffalo, 91st in pace. So, and their games have kind of shown that in those kind of like 21-17 type games that they played a little bit throughout the year. Yeah, I think this is a good spot a little bit for Central Michigan here at home. But the only thing is I thought Buffalo didn't look good early. They've looked a little bit better. I mean, that was their best game, like I just talked about, against Bowling Green, especially on the road. So just a tough one. I think this is tight, low scoring. I lean under this game.
Buffalo
could be alive.
Surprisingly, Buffalo was 30th, top 30 in pace, but yeah, Central Michigan's near the bottom. Only Ohio State is running more seconds per play than Central Michigan. So they're 135 seconds per play, Central Michigan. They're right there with Army and Navy, which is no shock because Matt Drinkle is
at the bottom.
Army. Yeah, the head coach for Central Michigan. He wants options.
There's a lot of these. Northern Illinois,
yeah,
we hit on. They're down at the bottom, 120 something. Yeah. So a lot of slow teams play, running the football here in the MAC.
No doubt. All right, next up, we turn our attention to Thursday. Only one Thursday night game this week, and it is out of the Sun Belt Fun Belt on a Thursday night. Troy and Old Dominion. We've got the Old Dominion Monarchs 11-point home favorites in this game. The total sitting at 53.5, pretty much across the board here in this game. Old Dominion coming off a very impressive 31-6 beatdown over ULM. They've been all over the place lately. Old Dominion. They beat the hell out of Central or Coastal and Liberty. They lose outright as double-digit favorites to Marshall, and they lose by 24. They end up getting steamrolled by James Madison, 63-27, against a App State team that I think they're better than. It was lackluster, and it was life and death for ODU to win that game, 24-21. And only last week, for the first time in really 4 games, did ODU put forth really a strong pillar-to-post, start-to-finish game on both sides of the football. Colton Joseph was good throwing it, running it, and the defense, more importantly, put the clamps down on Louisiana Monroe's offense. Armenta, the quarterback, had 1 interception. It was a struggle to get the run game going for Monroe. That being said, at the end of the day, even though that final score was 31-6 Old Dominion, the yardage in that game was 391 for Old Dominion, and it was almost 300 for Louisiana Monroe. So it really wasn't quite as lopsided in the box score as maybe the final score of the game indicated. Troy comes into this game off a 23-10 loss at home against Arkansas State. Both teams coming in off a bye, so again, no advantage there. Neither team played last week, so it's pretty much a wash as far as that goes. The one thing that we've noted on this show when we've talked Troy is that they were without Goose Crowder, obviously, for a long period of time, but they did get him back against Arkansas State. Look, he looked a little rusty, I guess you could say, coming back to action because he missed really since the Memphis game. He had been injured and out of action for Troy, and it was Tucker Kilcrease that was the quarterback for them. But Goose Crowder came back. Yeah, the fact now that he's got a bye week, the game under his belt, back from injury before the bye week against Arkansas State, and now the bye week to really ramp things up and get more comfortable.
Is he in? Kilcrease played against Arkansas State, though.
He is. That's what we're looking. Was it Kilcrease?
Okay.
Let me just double check.
Yeah, it was Kilcrease because he's been bad the last few games.
You're right. He was expected
but
to
that
come
doesn't
back,
mean.
and then they decided last minute we're going to play it safe and we'll wait for the bye and now bring him back. Yeah, it was Kilcrease.
So he's going to play. He's going to play. Yeah, here. Okay.
And Kilcrease was starting to play better, and then he kind of went back to having one of the games he played early when he first took over. He could barely move the football when he first took over. Remember those first couple of games for Troy? Like their offense did nothing without Goose Crowder the first couple of games. But then all of a sudden, Kilcrease started to get comfortable. Yes, it was Kilcrease against Arkansas State, but it looks like it is going to be Crowder. I see Crowder listed as the QB1 here for this game, so we do expect him back here for this matchup. His numbers, 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, again, early in the season. Let's not forget, he played pretty solid and despite a losing effort against Clemson. That was the game where we highlight it because he was able to move the football, especially early in that game. I kind of lean with Goose Crowder back and healthy again. I kind of lean to Troy here, plus 11. You're getting a pretty good number here with them. You look at Old Dominion here and the recent opportunities they've had as double-digit favorites. They did cover as double-digit road favorites at ULM, but double-digit home favorites, we saw App State. They won by 3. They were 14.5-point road favorites at Marshall. They lost outright. They did cover against Coastal Carolina, I should say, but Coastal was a mess on offense at the time. They didn't cover as home favorites against Liberty. They were 14.5-point home favorites. They only won by 14. So, maybe a little bump for Troy getting Goose Crowder back on the field as their starting quarterback. Both of these teams 6-3. Old Dominion undefeated at home, 4-0, but Troy actually has been pretty solid on the road. You go back and look at Clemson, they covered. At Buffalo, they won outright. At Texas State, they won outright. At ULM, 4.5-point road favorites. They won 37-14. So this Troy team is a perfect 4-0 against the spread on the road coming into this game here. So, yeah, I think you can make a case for Troy, plus 11. C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, I think so, too. I like that. You don't team on the road that they play, solid on the road. Like, even in that Clemson to start the year, you remember that the first half? They were, beating them in that game there. So they've been solid on the road. And it's tough to lay these points a little bit with, I think, Old Dominion, the better team. These defenses are similar a little bit. One thing is Troy does give it up a little bit on the ground, and we know Old Dominion can run it 200 yards a game, and Troy gives up 160, a little bit better against the pass. But, I kind of want Troy in this spot, but this is a wait for me. I'm just going to keep this here as a lean.
I think there's pathways to points for both teams. I think Troy could move it with a healthy Goose Crowder. And you're right about the run defense. That's the weakness for Troy. And Old Dominion's getting 200 rushing yards per game on average. Their run game is pretty darn good. So I think there could be pathways to points. I don't see any weather issues in Norfolk, Virginia. Thursday night, no rain, 3-mile-per-hour winds. So the over might be something that appeals to me here as well with Troy and ODU in this.
And what do you get to Old Dominion, the team that kind of has been some games dominant at home and others not?
Yep.
It's a little
bag at home. They dominated Coastal at home. Pretty good against Liberty at home, but then they had that, head scratcher against App State. They were life and death. They were trailing actually in that game, needed to come back to win that game. So,
and they were laying almost 2 touchdowns there.
Yes,
right?
They were
13.
Yep. Barely won the game straight up. All right, let's go to Friday. We've got, speaking of Clemson Tigers, Friday night ACC matchup against Louisville. We've got Louisville 3-point home favorites, 51.5 being the total here in this game. What a shocker in the ACC with California, the Golden Bears.
Get my fucking money back from the last week. God damn. I need it.
That's what they're capable of when they hang on to the ball. And JKS, Sagapolotele, as receivers he can count on, they can hang with a bunch of teams, but they just couldn't, the penalties, and they couldn't get out of their own way. I didn't trust them. I didn't bet that.
Don't blame you. I had to block everything out. Sometimes I try to do that because we all go off just the last weeks, you know what I mean? Especially the loss like that. So I was like, I got to do it. I got to fucking do it.
Yeah, I think it's a nice spot to take Louisville here, in my opinion, -3. Bounce back spot at home. I'm not trusting Clemson. Clemson beat Florida State at home. Big deal, in my opinion. Florida State's been erratic lately. They lost to Duke. They lost to SMU. They lost to Syracuse. They lost to Georgia Tech. Who did they play on the road? They did have 2 road wins. Who did they play? Boston College, who's absolutely collapsed the last several weeks, and North Carolina when they stunk. Remember, they played Bill Belichick in North Carolina when they were awful, before they started to get things a little bit back on track with the defense, at least. I don't think North Carolina is back on track offensively, but they have played a little bit better defensively here the last few weeks. So really, we're gonna think that beating Boston College and North Carolina on the road means that Clemson's going to be able to take care of business here against what should be an angry Louisville team coming off that loss against Cal. I think it's a nice little buy low spot, bounce back spot for me. -3 or better, I'll be in with Louisville here. C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it is a good bounce back spot here for Louisville. This is a team that's just got drilled by Clemson, it seemed like year in and year out. And they beat them last year at Clemson.
At Clemson, 33-21. Yep.
At Clemson. So this game seems like it could be close. Louisville, just the pass defense, kind of where did it go in that game against Cal? They just weren't very good. What they give up?
No
about
weather here.
350.
I'm surprised this total is only 51.5. I'll say this about Clemson. Cade Klubnik has played a little bit better here these last few games. So the offense, I think, could score a little bit. I don't think they're stopping Louisville. I think Louisville will have a good game offensively.
I think they will. This could be a pretty good game. I lean Louisville. So when I saw this, it's like this seems like a decent spot here for Louisville. Just a horrible game. You got to think practice will be a little more, tough this week.
I think he's a good enough coach. He's a coach I respect. He's a coach I trust, Jeff Brom. Yeah, after a game like that, to be able to get his team kind of back on track here. Miller Moss didn't play great. He was kind of erratic against Cal last week, but I think he's capable of a lot better. And I still think the secondary is kind of shaky when it comes to Clemson here. You can throw on them, and I think that's a passing game that's going to have some success here. Plus this total, I think the over is a good bet here. Look at last year. There was 54 points in the game, but the total was 62.5. Like, you're getting like 11 points lower of a total. I think it's just too low. If this total's in the high 50s or 60s, I probably am not interested in an over here. But we're betting numbers here, and 51.5 seems a little light to me.
I want to look into it. Yeah, and in that game, it was pretty even. A lot of field goals with both those teams, Cal and Louisville, last week. I wonder what's going on with the secondary. I mean, Cal kind of took them apart, a team that's been pretty good against the pass all year long, Louisville. Yes. So I want to look into that a little bit in this game.
Well, and another thing, too, is Clemson, with Klubnik's played better lately, and, of course, they also have had Antonio Williams back these last few weeks, which has made a huge difference for Clemson as far as the best weapon, in the passing game. So, yeah, like I said, Louisville in the over for me is what I'm looking at, targeting for that game. All right, the other game on Friday night, we've got the Big Ten matchup here on Fox. Friday night, Minnesota and Oregon. We've got Oregon 24-point home favorites. The total here sitting at 46 across the board. What an escape that was, and in Iowa City on Saturday for the Oregon Ducks. Boy, oh boy, needed that last minute drive. Credit to Dante Moore. Everything was a battle. The weather was horrendous, terrible for offenses, the weather in that game in Iowa, and it looked like, wow, Iowa taking the lead late was going to be the death nail for Oregon, but for as up and down a game as it was for Dante Moore, when he had to clutch up and get it done, he got it done. And you got to give him a whole lot of credit. Got Oregon into field goal range, and they end up winning it late against Iowa last week. Now they return home against Minnesota. It could either be an emotional flat spot or hangover after surviving and beating Iowa, or they look at it and say, and probably Dan Lanning is going to look at it too and say, we did not play anywhere close to our best game. We're going to have to play a whole lot better. We can be a whole lot better than that. And that's the concern for me about backing Minnesota here in this game, because if Oregon takes that mindset and mentality that, hey, we got away with one, that's unacceptable, though, we're a better football team than this, and they come out here and they mean business, they could blow the doors off Minnesota, because Minnesota has not shown me anything on the road in Big Ten play. Well, they have. They've shown me that they can't compete. That's what they've shown me. At Iowa, 41-3. At Ohio State, 42-3. Think about that. They've lost to Iowa and Ohio State, combined score of 83-6. 83-6 in two Big Ten road losses for Minnesota against Iowa and Oregon and Ohio State. And Oregon's better than Iowa and they're maybe a slight notch below Ohio State. So how do you have any faith here in I can't back Minnesota, not with a track record like that on the road, out on the West Coast. Not to mention they've already done the West Coast thing once this year. They went to Cal. They were 3-point road favorites. They lost 27-14 in that game, non-competitive. So I can't back Minnesota here. I think there's elements of their team on offense. I like Taylor, the running back. Drake Lindsey's capable, but their defense against any kind of good offense has really had a problem this year. It's not been a very good defense, in my opinion, at times for PJ Fleck. And with that road track record, can't do it. Can't be on Minnesota seeing that. What do you think here, C-Mac? Minnesota, Oregon.
Yeah, no way. I don't know how they run the ball. They can't run the ball. They can't even throw the ball. I mean, they're 98th. Oregon, one of the better teams against the pass, especially who they play. I think it's just Oregon here or nothing, or their team total. Where I want to look to fade Oregon is they got the next 2 games. So maybe this could be like a sleepy, even though they're back home, SC, and then they're at Washington. I think they lose one of those games coming up for Oregon.
This might be one of those. Now, Oregon last year especially was a very good first half bet. This could be one of those spots to come back with an Oregon first half bet. I lean that way.
Yeah, if the offense is humming like you talked about, they're not kind of down. This game, of course, up in Oregon, a little bit of rain. So just keep an eye on it. I don't think it matters. You're used to it.
Yeah, it does look like, I'm just seeing it now. Yeah, 60% chance of rain. No wind, but they are saying 60%.
That's normal.
For Eugene. It's Eugene, Oregon in November, guys. What do you expect?
Yeah, that's like daily. I've been up there.
Death taxes and the cold November rain in Oregon right now for them. All right. Next up, we've got Texas and Georgia. We got Georgia, 6.5-point home favorites. The total here, 47.5. We've moved to Saturday, by the way. This is the first of the Saturday games, and it's one of the bigger games, obviously, on Saturday. Georgia, first time they didn't really screw it around. Well, you still cashed first quarter with Mississippi State last week.
Big second quarter, yeah.
I had first half Mississippi State, and I did not cash that because it was 21-0 Georgia in the second quarter against Mississippi State last week. And then they were just too much for Mississippi State's defense. You got to give Gunnar Stockton and the offense credit. They had a huge day, and Mississippi State could not trade points with Georgia. So they did have a slow start, but the slow start didn't last as long as it has in certain games. So we'll see how this one plays out here. That being said, I kind of want to go back to the well here with Texas first quarter at the very least in this game. It still continues to be, like I said, it's almost like Kirby's team. They dip their toe into the water in the first 15 minutes to say, all right, let's get a lay of the land here. Let's see what's going on before they really start to put their stamp on the football game. And this has been just a repeated performance pattern for Georgia where they've just gotten off to these slow starts in the first, well, at times in the whole first half, but certainly in the first quarter. And we could see that maybe being the case here. And you've also got a Texas team that's given Steve Sarkisian the opportunity to prepare and get ready off a bye week, whereas Georgia does not have the bye week going into this game. So a little bit of a situational advantage for Texas. What do we make here of is the Georgia defense was very good last week, and we've seen the last couple of weeks they played better after getting chewed up a little bit by Ole Miss, even though they still were able to win that game. What do we make of Arch? Arch, to me, is coming off, I think, his best game, and it's progress. I saw legit progress and signs of improvement and steps forward from Arch against Vanderbilt.
Do you buy it?
Do we buy it? Exactly. And now you got to go on the road again this time around. Actually, no, that was at Texas. No, that was a home game against Vanderbilt where he played very well.
The home game.
Now you got to go on
and
the road.
And Vandy came back there late. Yeah.
Yeah. And on the road, we know against really any competition, but especially the better teams. Like, what if that Kentucky, like, he did rip apart Mississippi State, but Mississippi State's got a pretty rough defense still. Let's also not forget about the Florida game where he struggled and labored and lost. Let's not forget about the Kentucky game where he was absolutely terrible, and that was a road game too. And, of course, we know what Ohio State did to him, first game of the year. So that's the issue. I don't know if I can trust him on offense on the road at Georgia. I don't know if I can trust Texas for 4 quarters. But what I can do is back what's been cashing repeatedly, and that's fading Georgia in the first quarter. That's exactly what I'm going to do here. I do like Texas first quarter in this game. First half a little bit too, but more so the first quarter here, which you can get plus 2.5 right now with Texas first quarter in this game. Why not? Georgia takes 15 minutes to get things going. C-Mac, what do you think? Texas, Georgia.
Yeah, fuck. I kind of like Texas here. I got trust issues a little bit with Arch Manning and the defense that's looked good in spot games, and the numbers are good. But talk about some of these SEC teams that they played. They kind of got into shootouts.
Yep.
In some of them, especially late in this one.
I got to admit, their defense has kind of leveled off just a bit here, Texas. Yeah.
Yeah, but I like them off the bye in this spot. And I think this is a little bit telling the number. It's 6. I think Texas is live. We all remember the tight game, the OT last December, of course. Stockton played, Manning didn't. 22-19. I think it'll be hot, yeah. So, I mean, the classic, the Georgia's been sleeping a little bit. Texas maybe first half. And you know what the big thing with Manning is just, I think his footwork looks a little bit better. If he doesn't turn it over, too, I think they're in it. So that's just, can he do that here in Athens?
I'm telling you what, this Georgia defense, too, I'm not all that enamored by it still. That's not that same elite Kirby Smart Georgia defense we've seen in years past. To me, they're a notch down on the defensive side of the football. They struggle.
They're not dominant. Yeah, but
dominant. Alabama ripped them for a half. They did adjust, but they still ripped them for a half. Alabama, they couldn't stop Aguilar and Tennessee. Don't be fooled by the 10 points they gave up to Auburn. Auburn should have been up another touchdown. They got that was a bad call against Auburn, and they struggled with Auburn for a half. Ole Miss, they struggled, but they outscored Ole Miss, which is why they won that game. That's why I'm if Arch can continue to show progress. This is a guy that everyone was talking about as a fucking Heisman winner coming into the year. Like, people thought there was a huge amount of talent and arm talent with Arch Manning. And for a while, it didn't look like it. But he was a guy people expected huge things from this year. Now that he's had a couple of better games, he's got a bye week now, work even more with the first teamers on offense, and come out here and play a solid game. I'm kind of talking myself into the total, too. 46.5 at FanDuel, just a little low. Texas's defense has given up some more points. Vanderbilt got into the 30s against Texas defense. We also saw Mississippi State get into the 38-point range against them. Florida put 29 on the board, and I don't think Florida's offense is particularly great. So that's why I'm talking myself into the over a little bit here at 46.5 with Texas. It's a low total, man. I think it can get there.
I think there'll be a lot of Georgia love here. Team finally covering a little bit lately, like 4 out of 5. It should have probably covered. They took the knee in the Florida game late. So, and Texas has not been good against the number here, as you know, this year.
Yep, that'll be a good one. Well, looking forward to seeing how that's your Saturday night game, ABC with Herb Street and Fowler on.
Can't wait.
See, we've got Arizona and Cincinnati. Cincinnati is 6.5 point home favorites. 56 the total here in this game. I think the last time we saw Cincy, it was that game where they got. Well, I really liked Utah in that game. I remember I said Cincinnati not their ranking was absurd.
We were like, they're frauds. They got fucking lit.
Fraud's harsh, but they're not.
They're fraudulent a little bit. I just meant who they played and at home. Yeah,
no, I agree. The ranking was ridiculous, and they got knocked down today. Like they had played. Look, I mean, UCF, Oklahoma State, Baylor. Kansas road win, I guess, was decent. And the Iowa State win, too. I mean, they had a secondary is out, and they're still out for Iowa State. But that was as tough as it gets, and they were humbled 45-14 by Utah. That being said, they're off a bye week, back home, played pretty good football at home. They won and covered against Iowa State. They won by 9 against UCF. They blew out Baylor at home. Definitely feels like a Cincy spot, and you're buying low on them again after that Utah blowout loss 2 weeks ago. We'll see how this one plays out. Arizona's off the 24-20 win against Kansas. So back-to-back wins. They pummeled the hapless Colorado Buffaloes before that. Can they duplicate it on the road, though? We've seen Arizona on the road lose at Houston, get blown out by Iowa State, 39-14. So there's still a little bit of a proving ground here for me. And they gave up 39 and 31 in those two losses. This could be a spot for Sorsby and the offense to flex a little bit. Arizona's defense hasn't traveled great on the road. Off the bye week, you'd expect, the offense after getting, putting the clamps down put on them by a very good Utah defense for them to maybe bounce back here. Keep an eye on the status of the running back, Evan Pryor, for Cincinnati. He missed the game against Utah with an ankle injury, questionable here for the game against Arizona off the bye. I lean Cincy. I might go team total over, though, on Cincy as opposed to laying the 6.5. The team total for Cincy is 30.5. And like I said, in Arizona's two road losses, CMAC, they gave up 31 to Houston, 39 to Iowa State. So that defense has been ripped at times, especially through the air on the road, and Sorsby could be able to do that here. So maybe a Bearcats team total over here. Kind of lean that direction. CMAC, what do you think here? Zona, Cincy.
Yeah, fuck. I don't trust them. I don't trust either of these teams. I don't want nothing to do with this game. I just haven't had a read on Arizona all year. I think they're a decent football team. Talked about the defense has kind of been there, kind of hasn't. Off back-to-back wins, I don't want them. And Cincy after just the bad loss in a bad spot at Utah, like we talked about. But a team like this, let's put it like Baylor, like you were touching on, Iowa State, they've played well at home and put up points. So maybe you're right with the team total, but nada for me.
If I trusted Fafita more, because he kind of was disappointing with his performance, even though they won, like I expected the offense to do better than that against Kansas last week. Maybe the full game over, I lean that way too. But and the weather looks fine, by the way, for Cincinnati. On Saturday afternoon. All right, Georgia Tech, Boston College. Georgia Tech, 16.5-point road favorites, 58 the total. There's a pass for me. You got anything here? I can't lay 16.5 with Georgia Tech. I've always said it. When they're laying this many points on the road, I can't take them. But I'm done with BC. Screw those guys. Screw you, Bill O'Brien. Screw you. I mean, your team just can't. I mean, that was a spot for you to show something, for crying. I know SMU can be pretty good, but that was horrific. That was brutal against SMU. On the weekend. You keep talking about, hey, we got to keep trying, we got to keep playing. You said that before the SMU game, that, hey, we got to show up and still finish the season the right way, and you were just as pathetic as you were the week before. I'm finished trusting Boston College. So this is an easy pass for me. I can't lay it this many with Georgia Tech. And I'm out on Boston College. I'm done with them just no showing and looking absolutely pathetic. What do you think here, CMAC?
Yeah, shit. This team just sucks for Boston College.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. When teams are horrible like this, they don't cover. Why the hell would I want my money on them? Come on.
Yeah.
And maybe this is this even enough? Give me fucking 21.5. Maybe we're talking. Even take a look at this game.
I'd actually lean to lay in the points because I'm looking at it now. Georgia Tech stumbled before the bye week. They lost to NC State 48-36.
They lost. They're in a good position too. I mean, I would take their team total just with this 16.5.
Right.
I think they kind of do what they want.
Yeah, the run defense for BC, they're giving up 5 yards per carry.
They're gashed
per game on the ground. Yeah, I lean Georgia Tech here a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I look at their team total with if you want to play Georgia Tech.
I'm not going to lay it, but Georgia Tech, if you're going to bet Georgia Tech, I would say take the team total over. Yeah.
Yeah, in a tough game. We'll get to NC State coming up here.
Yeah.
In that one.
All right, Virginia and Duke. We've got Duke, the 6.5-point home favorites, 57.5 the total in this game. This is a weird one. Duke is a hard team for me to trust defensively, but Virginia, singing the praises of Chandler Morris early in the season, they haven't been clicking of late at the same level in recent games. But Duke, man, I mean, boy, oh boy, just had no answers for Joseph Fagnano and UConn.
Hell yeah,
I was happy about it. I think we both like UConn as a home dog there in that game. But boy, oh boy, this is not the first time either Duke has been, This is a bad look for Manny Diaz. You're a defensive guy, okay, and your defense is getting ripped here week in and week out. Even when you beat Clemson, you beat them because you outscored them. You didn't stop Clemson. You outscored them. That's how you won that game. So this is a bad look for him. He's supposed to be a defensive mastermind, and his defense is getting gashed repeatedly here in some of these recent games. So hard to lay 6.5 with a defense that's playing this way. But counter that to Virginia. We loved the way this offense was humming early in the year with Chandler Morris. Look what they're doing lately. Like they're scoring 17 against North Carolina, 9 points in a loss last week to Wake Forest. I mean, what has happened all of a sudden to this Virginia offensive machine? It's not been good. Now, backup quarterback last week's a big part of it. They had Daniel Kalen getting the start for Chandler Morris there in that game. Well, Chandler Morris got injured, and that's why Daniel Kalen had to finish that game for Virginia last week. Keep an eye on the status. But even before that, Chandler Morris was showing, not quite as strong as we had saw him early in the season. But yes, his status, Chandler Morris, for this game is questionable after exiting the game in the first half due to injury. So Kalen might have to start. He hasn't been ruled out for this game, though, as of yet, according to Tony Elliott. So we'll have to wait and see on that. I got 6.5 with Duke. No, not with their defense. I can't be laying almost a touchdown with a defense I don't trust to get stops. That's been my mantra. My handicapping mantra for years is if I don't trust the defense to get stops consistently, how can I lay points with them? And, we saw this defense as a favorite lose outright to Georgia Tech. We saw this team as a favorite lose outright to UConn. And the problem was they could not get stops when they needed it. So I guess by default, I lean Virginia, but kind of have to wait for the Morris news before I even consider backing them. C-Mac, what do you think here?
Yeah, it's just a wait for me till he's in. I mean, Caleb was 18, 25. They could score 20 points, 145 yards. Both off losses, that were tight. Even with the backup, I mean, I want Morris in. To me, this is Virginia. They have the better defense. And Duke turns the ball over, and their defense has just got problems. That's why I love fading them last week. And it's really been the secondary. So Morris is in, even though they were kind of struggling with points the last few weeks. This secondary sucks for Duke. Yeah. I mean, they just get thrown all over.
Throw all over that group. Yep.
Yeah, corners haven't been good, or the safeties really all year long, giving up a lot. So Virginia too, always plays, has Duke's number as well. So yeah, just a wait and see with Morris, but lean Virginia.
All right, Virginia Tech and Florida State. Florida State 13.5-point home favorites, 54.5 the total here in this game. Florida State, I'm still wondering how the hell they blew out Wake Forest as badly as they did, because they reverted back to the old Florida State. Well, the Florida State when they were struggling there multiple weeks in a row against Clemson in that loss to the Clemson Tigers over the weekend. It's been very much a mixed bag for Tommy Castellanos lately for the Florida State offense. Defense actually, after a rough start, kind of held them in the game, but, offense couldn't really do enough to get them through the finish line. We'll see how they fare here. The last time I lined up to fade Florida State as double-digit home favorites, I thought it was a great number with Wake Forest, a great spot, and they got blown out 42-7. So I'm a little bit gun-shy to take Virginia Tech here, but Virginia Tech is off a bye week. Extra time to prepare for, it's an interim coaching staff now, obviously, but still extra time to prepare for them going into this game. They lost 28-16 to Louisville at home in their last game. They did win and cover against Cal, 42-34. Actually, going back to the 5 games they played since the coaching change, they've been somewhat competitive in a lot of them. They beat NC State, they beat Cal, they lost by 7 to Wake, 15 to Georgia Tech and almost covered, and by 12 to Louisville and almost covered. Like they were just a couple of points away from getting inside the number both times. So we'll see how this plays out. I mean, it's definitely a spot advantage here for the Hokies coming off the bye, and it is a lot of points. I could only look at Virginia Tech, but the last time I said I talked myself into taking double digits with a road dog at Florida State, Wake got killed in that game. So I'm a little – plus, if they fall behind Virginia Tech, Drones is not the kind of quarterback that's going to lead them back into the game. That's how rough, he can be at times. So it's a modest lean to Virginia Tech. I'm not sure I'm going to end up moving on it, though. C-Mac, what do you think?
Fucking Drones. This guy drives me nuts. Speaking of him, I mean, this guy's, I don't know. I don't think it's enough. I think when these two teams play, usually I want the points. These games are pretty competitive. I mean, Florida State for the most part. Has taken care of them, but there's been some really, really close games. I don't know what to make Florida State. They looked horrible last week. I mean, it seems lost, 4 or 5? So the spot here, there's just no way you could lay points with them. That's kind of how I feel. So there's just a lean to Virginia Tech of now.
All right, we got Wisconsin taking on Indiana. What an escape for Indiana against Penn State. Wow. And one of the more incredible catches there, Omar Cooper. My goodness, you'll never forget that name again.
There was a few good catches in that game. Yeah. But, the end ones.
The toe tap in the back of the end zone to save Indiana and escape with the victory in Happy Valley. Now they're laying 30.5 to Wisconsin, 44.5 the total. Well, Wisconsin is coming off an outright underdog victory over Washington, so a little pulse from the Badgers all of a sudden last week, although it was all their defense and it was all Washington ineptitude on offense, but a win is a win. Wisconsin's going to take it, considering the season they've had. But here's the problem with Wisconsin. Yes, they beat Washington 13-10. But the quarterback situation is still a mess. You know that 4 quarterbacks threw a pass in that game, attempted a pass. Carter Smith, Hunter Simmons, Danny O'Neal, and West. They all threw one pass in that game for Wisconsin. He has no quarterback. And I know Indiana's off this huge emotional game against Penn State. You'd think maybe I don't think there's going to be an emotional hangover, though. I think Kurt Cignetti's a maniac. He's going to rip into his team saying, you can't play like that and get away with it. You got to play better. I think he's going to he's going to fucking run those players through the ground at practice this week, coming off a game like that where they almost pissed it away. I think they could bury Wisconsin, quite honestly, here in this game. So this is probably back to the well of Indiana team total over. Maybe if I bet it. Usually when I bet Indiana, I don't lay the points. I take the team total over instead. I might go that route because even though Wisconsin's defense played well last week, that's not the same offense you're playing here. And plus their defense, if they go 3-and-out, eventually Indiana's just going to wear them down and be, and just, take over the game and run away with it. So team total is 37.5 for Indiana. I could see them getting 38. Yeah, in this one. But, I don't want Wisconsin. C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, they got the win. I don't know how they fucking score here. I don't know how with whoever the fuck's going to throw the ball. I mean, this team, 0-0, 10-10, and they went 13-10. That game, it's tough to watch, these Wisconsin football games. But I think they do have a pretty good defense. But like you said, if you're on the field.
Wisconsin had 48 passing yards and won the game last week.
The defense, though, did all right against this Washington team, that at home can be pretty good. Williams was just 20 of 32, 134, touchdown and a pick. And they just had over 100 yards on the ground. But, Indiana home's just been a juggernaut. So, I mean, Wisconsin team total under. I don't know if they get more than a touchdown. You're getting dicey there. Or Indiana's team total over,
Yep, to take your pick. You go Badgers team total under, Indiana team total over. No question. All right, NC State, Miami. We've got Miami, 15-point home favorites, 55.5. I like the Wolfpack here. I mean, okay. Miami last week against Syracuse. Like, Syracuse has been devoid. You talk about a team devoid of a quarterback, Wisconsin. So is Syracuse. And Miami let that team hang around for probably a lot longer than they should have last week. And it took, it took a while for the Carson Beck-led Hurricane offense to really get their mojo going in that game last week against Syracuse. So we'll see how this one plays out here in this one. But, 38-10 for Miami last week against Syracuse. Keep in mind, like I said, it was scoreless after the first quarter. And they didn't get their first touchdown until 2 minutes left in the second quarter. And then they got a pick six on that horrific Syracuse quarterback there, Ricky Collins, who was terrible again. So one of their touchdowns before halftime was a pick six. So it's not like Miami was moving the ball up and down the field. It took that offense a while to get on track against Syracuse last week. And NC State is coming off a bye week with extra time to prepare. They beat Georgia Tech. And when Miami lost to Louisville, wasn't Louisville coming off a bye week too? And we saw that when you give a coach extra time to prepare against Cristobal, he'll coach the shit out of Cristobal. We've seen it over and over and over again.
Yes.
And give me NC State here. Sprinkle on that money line. It wouldn't put it past Miami to lose this game as a double-digit favorite, just like they did against Louisville back on October 17th. This NC State team, I don't love their defense. NC State, they still have problems there, but they've got a quarterback. They've got C.J. Bailey. He can sling the rock. Hoffman and Rogers are pretty good receivers. They've got obviously a run game that's capable. Jaden Scott went crazy running the football against Georgia Tech 2 weeks ago. So I think NC State plus all these points is going to absolutely be on my card. What do you think here, C-Mac?
Shit. I kind of lean over. Like I can't win a low. They can't win a low-scoring game. Like this defense sucks.
Yeah.
Miami way better defense in this game. So that's just off the bat here when I go through this. In Miami, I just want to fade them. You know what I think is the best spot? It was Louisville and SMU. This just right away. They were asleep in the first half in both those games. So maybe NC State, with all this time to prepare, comes with a good game plan. These first few drives, trickery, some bullshit. So I was looking at them maybe early here because Miami just cruising. You're at home.
Divvy it up, right? First quarter, first half, full game. Maybe split your investment across all three. You could do that.
Yeah. NC State, too, always plays Miami. Good football games. Like always close ones. They beat them. They lose by fucking touchdown. So that defense, though, God, it's Miami they need a couple maybe turnovers. Our good friend Beck, that I always love to talk about, my guy, he needs to throw maybe a couple to have some success. But he should be able. The secondary is really bad for NC State. It's been tough. It's been tough to back them in a couple road spots where the defense just got shredded, especially at Pitt. It's horrible.
All right, we move along to Penn State and Michigan State. We got Penn State 7-point road favorites, 50.5 the total. Oh, yeah, this is Michigan State for me, 100%. There is no question about that. Penn State just showed up, fought till the end. That was as close to a national championship or a bowl game as it's going to get this year for that Penn State team with the dismal, disappointing season that they've had. They gave it their all, left their heart and their guts on the field against Indiana, and then to lose like that, last 30 seconds of the game, toe tap touchdown, Omar Cooper, to steal that game away. Yeah, there's no chance I'm trusting Penn State to show up here with that same effort, that same intensity on the road, laying a full touchdown here against Michigan State. I know Michigan State's not very good, and I know they've got issues defensively. I think Aiden Childs, though, has shown in glimpses that he can move the football a bit, and they compete. They're in games. They're 5-1 against the spread their last 6 games. They're 0-6 straight up, Michigan State, their last 6 games, but they've covered 5 of the 6.
Yeah.
They had, covers against USC and Nebraska. They had one really bad loss against UCLA. That's it. Against Indiana, they covered in defeat. At home against Michigan, they covered in defeat. Against Minnesota on the road, they lost by 3. Covered that number. They cover this number, in my opinion. Michigan State plus 7. Wouldn't even shock me if they win this game. I think this is a real tough spot for Penn State. They left it all out there last week. C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, it's not going to be easy for them after that game. This team just continues to lose. I know they've covered a couple numbers, of course, last week. Penn State, now they're favorites on the road, even against a team like Michigan State. I just don't think it's going to be easy for them. Well, look at this, too. Michigan State's defense just isn't good enough. You know what I mean? These teams have gone over a lot, lately this year. So, yeah, I don't know. I got to look at Michigan State. Is there's 6.5 and 7s everywhere here?
Yeah. Here's the thing. He replaced Aiden Childs against Minnesota. The other quarterback, Alessio Milivojevic is how you say it. Alessio Milivojevic. I don't know.
There's 7s everywhere. Okay.
Yeah, like I said, and Grunkemeyer, I'll say this: Grunkemeyer against Indiana, 22 of 31. He was better. He definitely steps forward, no doubt. He's gotten a little bit better here. So keep an eye on the quarterback situation, though, for this game, because, again, Jonathan Smith in the game against Minnesota, where they lost 23-20, Milivojevic got the start in that game for the Spartans as he, just a decision on his part to replace Childs. He replaced Childs at the end of the Michigan game and gave Alessio Milivojevic the start against Minnesota, but I don't think Jonathan Smith is committed fully to Milivojevic again for this game. So this is a play for me either way. I just want to stress that. I don't care if it's Childs. I don't care if it's Milivojevic. I will be on Michigan State here, regardless. I think it's that bad a spot for Penn State here.
There are some 6.5. There are a couple 7.5.
Yeah.
If you want, get to 7.5. I mean, the juice is a little. It's just minus 120.
Yeah. All right. Next up, as we continue along here, we've got another Big Ten matchup: UCLA, Ohio State. Ohio State 31.5-point home favorites, 48.5 the total. They did not cover against. It looked like they were in control start to finish, but they did not cover against Purdue last week. Ohio State. So that's the problem, right? Everyone knows this is the best team right now in everyone's power rankings, number one in the country, Ohio State. But you're not getting bargains now to back them. They're laying a big number, and the numbers caught up to Ohio State. And we saw it last week against Purdue. So, but am I rushing to back UCLA on the road? Probably not. Especially, is this one of these early games? No, it's a night game at least in Columbus. So it's not as bad on the body clock for a Pacific time zone West Coast team traveling over to Ohio for this game. But, I have not bet many Ohio State games this year. It's just I don't really want to go against them. Their defense is the best defense in the country right now. And Julian Sayin has been playing, for the most part, mistake-free, clean football. But the problem with laying numbers like this is they do run the football a lot. They play very slow on offense. You don't always get the possessions you need to cover a number like this when you're laying 31.5. But like I said, Sayin's been great. Sayin only had 6 incomplete passes against Purdue last week, along with the 303 passing yards. So I'm probably going to stay off this game. I'm not really much of an opinion either way. C-Mac, what do you think? UCLA, Ohio State?
Yeah, I don't have nothing here. I think UCLA, I can't take them. I just and I don't know how they score. I mean, this is I tried to get on a team total under for the most part.
Yeah.
Purdue got a late touchdown there though in that game. I wasn't on it, but that's always when you're dicey. When you search that was like 9.5s, 10s is a team total under.
Let's not forget, post Deshaun Foster getting fired, we've seen UCLA play one road game against a team in the stratosphere of Ohio State, and that was Indiana, and they lost 56-6. So that's why I can't take UCLA.
That defense just let it up there, I thought, kind of in the second quarter.
Yeah.
Against Nebraska. Just a couple big plays. There was that big pass, that went for the touchdown. So, and it was a struggle for the offense a little bit, even though they got a late touchdown there to make it 28-21. So, yeah.
All right, we got Notre Dame and Pitt. Notre Dame 10.5-point road favorites, 55.5 the total here in this game. College game day, ESPN crew going to Pitt. How about that? Can't remember the last time I've seen College game day set up shop in Pittsburgh for a Pitt Panthers game. But here we go for Notre Dame coming into town, and Pitt trying to play spoiler to Notre Dame's playoff hopes. Notre Dame, we've talked about it going back to when they lost to A&M, their second loss. We knew it was they had to run the table if they're going to be in the college football playoffs. So there's still no margin for error for Notre Dame. They haven't lost since that A&M game. Very dominant showing against Navy, 49-10 last week. We'll see how they fare here against Pitt. I'm not a big fan of Narduzzi. You guys know that. But 5-0 straight up, 5-0 against the spread their last 5 games, Pitt, albeit not the greatest competition. BC, Florida State, Syracuse, NC State, Stanford. I get it. and off a bye week for Pitt, extra time to prepare. They've got, obviously, the quarterback change has done a significant amount of good for Pittsburgh. Not that Holstein was bad, but I guess you got to give Narduzzi credit for one thing. He saw that this Mason Heinschel kid was waiting in the wings and said, well, we need a little spark for the offense. Let's put him in there. And look what he's done. He's been great. He's throwing for 300 yards. He's throwing for 400 yards. He's already thrown for 6, 9, 12 touchdowns, 5 interceptions since he's taken over at the quarterback spot for the Pitt Panthers. He's been very solid. He's, for a true freshman, he's clearly shown an ability. Now, did have a couple turnovers against Stanford, but it didn't end up, coming back to haunt him a little bit. I don't know. So everything tells me I want to be taking Pitt here, plus 10.5. Great spot. College game day crew in town, off a bye week, at home, playing spoiler for Notre Dame. I still don't know if Pitt's got it in them to stop and slow down Notre Dame's offense, though, with C.J. Carr and company and that great run game of Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price. I still have some concerns, knowing that Pitt this season, we'll see how they fare here. But again, that's going to be a big question. Now, the run defense numbers are actually pretty good, Pitt.
They've been good
against the pass that they've been shredded. So this could be a game where C.J. Carr's got to do a lot more in the aerial attack here against this Pitt team. But I lean Pitt. I lean over. I could see this being a game where we got points in it, too. Remember, Pitt plays fast. Cade Bell, the offensive coordinator, it's his second year there now. They play an extreme fast pace. Notre Dame, I think, is a team. And now we've got a little bit lower of a total here because Notre Dame's had some unders lately until last week against Navy. And think about how Navy plays ultra slow. We still had 59 points in that game, and it went over 54.5. So I like the over, especially in this game, because I think Pitt will score enough here to help the over at home. And I lean Pitt, but I like the total more. I like over. I lean Pitt. What do you think here, C-Mac? Notre Dame, Pittsburgh.
Yeah, those overs have been getting there with Pitt. You talked about. I got to give a shout out to our guy Gorky here, my dude. See what he's on here. Plays for E12 Ohio. Team total over Miami, Ohio. Money line. I like it. Alabama, Georgia, Utah money line. Shout out to my guy Gorky, the Goracle man. Appreciate you, my dude. You know what? If Notre Dame hadn't lost 2 fucking games, this is automatic fade for me. I already want to fade him. Just everyone's gonna want them here. I think they've been coasting the last couple weeks at BC. They've only played 2 road games. Dude, we had just kicked the shit out of Arkansas from jump, and fucked around a little bit with Boston College in a 25-10 win. I think Pitt's going to be able to move the football here a little bit. I'm interested in them. I'll leave it at that.
All right, North Carolina and Wake Forest. Wake Forest, 6.5-point home favorites, 39.5 the total in this game. I think I'm going to be on Chapel Bill here and the North Carolina Tar Heels plus 6.5. I think I might be on them here in this game. I'm seeing improvement from the defense. They're playing a lot better on that side of the ball. They've been able to string together multiple good games defensively in a row together, this North Carolina team. And now the wins are starting to follow. Now, I'm not going to act like they've beaten great teams here, Stanford and Syracuse. Trust me. I'm not going to sell you that bill of goods. But they covered in both games. The defense shut down those 2 teams. And don't forget the losses before that. They should have beat Virginia. Had a million chances to beat Virginia when they lost that game 17-16 in overtime. They should have beat Cal. If dude doesn't fumble the football going into the end zone against Cal, and Cal recovered, North Carolina could have won that game out there on the West Coast against Cal. But there's no doubt they're making this improvement, especially on defense. Gio Lopez and the offense is still a work in progress for North Carolina. There's still greater improvement that needs to happen on the offensive side of the football. But Wake Forest they're an all-over-the-map kind of team. Like, they go to Virginia and they win outright as an underdog last week. But before that, they got shelled by Florida State. They beat SMU at home. They dismantled Oregon State. They beat Virginia Tech. They lost to Georgia Tech. They lost to NC. They've been all over the map. They lose to Duke. Actually, that was last year. But they've been all over the map. Now they're favored. They've only been favored, I believe, once this year in FBS play. Actually, twice. I forgot about Kennesaw State when they were an 18-point home favorite and they won 10-9. Now, look, Kennesaw State's a lot better team than we thought at the time. But like I said, we'll have to wait and see how this goes. Kenny Woo saying Bill Belichick's mind is already on that Giants head coach opening now with Brian Dable getting fired today. He may not even be back at practice this week. He says he's committed to North Carolina, but like I said, I think if the right offer was given to him for an NFL head coaching job, he'd probably take it. I still lean North Carolina here. I'm seeing improvement. They're getting points. Wake's a bit flighty. North Carolina lean for me here, plus 6.5. CMAC, what do you think here? North Carolina, Wake Forest. CMAC. Oh, I think we've lost him. Tech issues, connection issues with CMAC. We'll see if we can get him back. In the meantime, we'll roll along. We've got Oklahoma and Alabama, SEC matchup here. Alabama, 6.5-point home favorites, 46 the total here in this game. Frustrating. I had the push on LSU. I took LSU plus 11. They had so many opportunities to be in that game, cover the number, and maybe even win that game, but so many mistakes, so many penalties, pre-snap penalties, drop passes, bad quarterback play, bad offensive line play. I mean, the offensive line play was really bad for LSU again last week. Credit to Alabama. They did what they had to do. Ty Simpson continues to play pretty well at quarterback, and we'll see if he can continue that here in this game against Oklahoma. And they've been excellent here in Tuscaloosa. Just absolutely phenomenal here at home. So it's not an easy team to bet against here at home right now, Alabama, where they've played some pretty good football during the course of the season. And we'll see if they can keep that up here in this game against Oklahoma. Oklahoma, they are a team that, against Ole Miss, I thought, what happened to their defense? But they rallied and beat Tennessee 33-27 on the road in their last game. Very impressive bounce-back performance from the Oklahoma Sooners. John Mateer was efficient throwing the ball. He actually looked like he was starting to get his legs and his health running the football back a little bit too, because he had 80 rushing yards against Oklahoma in that game. We'll see how this one plays out. Oklahoma's off a bye week. I mean, that's definitely a plus for them. And there's been some interest here early in the week on Oklahoma taking the points in this game against Alabama. And like I said, if not for so many LSU mistakes last week, LSU probably could have covered in the number and maybe even threatened to win that game outright. It was not a crisp game from Alabama's standpoint. And if they play like that again, then there's reason to think Oklahoma can maybe cover this number. This is a tough game. Like, Alabama's been good at home. I think they're the better team. Oklahoma, the last time we saw them against an offense in this caliber, they got ripped by Ole Miss. But it's a great spot for Oklahoma. They've got the extra time. That's why I'm kind of back and forth, but probably going to stay off it. But like I said, it's a good spot for Oklahoma. If you like Oklahoma from a spot perspective, I can see why that is. All right, next up, we've got Oregon State, Tulsa. I'm going to be brief on this. I'm not going to be on Oregon State all the way away from home after a loss like last week against Sam Houston State. Terrible. They dominated the Bucs box score. It's one of the most unbelievably fraudulent wins, undeserving wins you'll ever see that Sam Houston had as a 20-point dog against Oregon State. Just special teams gaffes. They obviously had the block punt return for a touchdown. I mean, it was ridiculous what happened to Oregon State last week. But, Tulsa had a terrible effort against I was very disappointed with Tulsa. Their offense against a horrible Florida State defense really couldn't get much going. Their defense got gashed. They were down big early in that game. We'll see how this one plays out. I want nothing to do with it. I'll just say that right now. I don't want anything to do with this. It's a pass for me. By default, I'd lean Tulsa because if we got Oregon State traveling all the way to the east, down to Tulsa, I should say, Oklahoma, for a very early start game, 10 a.m. Pacific. This game's going to start on the West Coast. So for that reason, I'll lean Tulsa, but I don't think I have a stomach to back either of these teams once again. All right, UCF and Texas Tech. We've got Texas Tech, 23.5-point home favorites, 47.5 the total here in this game. The only concern here is big win against BYU, maybe a little flat spot for the Red Raiders. I don't know if I've seen enough in the UCF offense, though, to really want to back UCF. It's just I don't really want to mess around with Texas Tech. They're kind of a one-way team for me right now. We either bet on them or we leave the game alone at this point in time. Baron Morton healthy and back in the fold. We saw what that defense was able to do against BYU last week, shutting them down in that 29-7 victory. Like I said, for UCF, losing to Houston 30-27. Not a great performance from them. Like I said, Baron Morton was great running the football with Cameron Dickey for Texas Tech at a good game on the ground. You look at their home record this year, 29-7, 42-0, 42-17. It's just been one blowout after another at home. So it's not easy to take the points here with UCF, even though their offense can be capable. Taven Jackson had a decent enough game, but unfortunately, defense could not slow down Houston with that game on the line. So this is probably not a game I have a strong opinion on, but yeah, I'm not stepping in front of the Texas Tech Express, especially in this home field at Lubbock. All right, next up we've got as we continue along, Kansas State, Oklahoma State. Kansas State 19.5, 20 point road favorites, 53.5 the total here in this game. Has the number caught up with Oklahoma State? We know this team fired Mike Gundy, had a brutal season so far, make no mistake about it. Obviously had a ton of issues, but there's been games now they've gotten inside the number because of the fact that, well, the power rating had fallen far enough on this Oklahoma State Cowboys team to the point now where, you're not getting those prime bargains anymore to fade them like you did early in the season. So that would be, I guess, the one concern I would have here with this matchup. It is, of course, this game in Stillwater. And like I said, Oklahoma State, they covered against Kansas, 38-21 loss. You also have this team coming off a bye week. It's also a bye week for Kansas State, so there's no advantage. But, does Oklahoma State put forth any sort of spirited effort moving forward? Because the one thing I can say about Kansas State is laying points like this is not an easy thing to do, even against Oklahoma State. They were 27.5-point home favorites against North Dakota back on August 30th, and they managed to just barely survive with the straight-up win 38-35 in that game. So that's what I'm talking about. As bigger favorites, this is not exactly a team that I fully trust, in this kind of a price range. So we'll see how it plays out. It looks like Zane Flores will remain the quarterback here for Oklahoma State in this game. Of course, Dylan Edwards no longer with the Kansas State team, so Joe Jackson, J.B. Price are going to take over as the primary running back options for this team moving forward. One thing that's been consistent about the Cowboys is the defense has been ripped apart. They've given up 45, 41, 39, 49, 42, and 38 points in their last 6 games. So pretty much just abysmal on the defensive side of the football. Maybe the Kansas State team total, it's 36.5, 37.5 to get to that 38-point number. Again, to be able to get there, Kansas State's going to have to run the football effectively. But we know Oklahoma State's given up 171 rushing yards per game. So maybe they will be able to run the football with a good amount of success. Kansas State overs have been the thing. 5 straight overs for K-State. A little pulse from Oklahoma State offensively in their game before the bye against Kansas. They played a little bit better. There's going to be a little bit of wind, but not heavy wind. It's moderate wind, but no rain on Saturday. So this total could get over. I can lean in that direction as well with the 53.5 to the over here with K-State taking on Oklahoma State. All right, Utah Baylor as we stay in the Big 12. Utah 9.5-point road favorites, 60.5 being the total here in this game. I think when you look at this matchup here with Utah and Baylor, Utah clearly the much better defense. I don't think there's much argument there. This is a Baylor team that every team that's played them has been able to move the football with a ton of success. We'll see if that continues here in this matchup. Utah coming off the destruction that they had a couple weeks ago versus Cincinnati, 45-14. They're coming off a bye. So is Baylor. And look, Baylor finally had a good defensive performance against UCF. It's kind of shocking to see it. Like, really? You almost have to look twice at the final score. Like, did Baylor really only give up 3 points to UCF? Yes, they did. So by far, it was their best defensive effort of the season. Taven Jackson had 2 interceptions, only 151 passing yards, 74 rushing yards. I almost couldn't believe my eyes. This Baylor's defense is doing this against UCF a couple weeks ago, but sure enough, they did. Now, can they build on it? That is the question. I kind of feel like I want to see another example of them stepping it up on defense before I'm truly ready to believe in them. Last 2 years, by the way, these teams have played, and Utah won at Baylor 20-13 a couple years ago, and then last year at Utah. Now, again, this is when this was early in the season, I believe, when they played. Yeah, and it was 23-12 for Utah. And yes, Cam Rising was still the quarterback. That was before he had to medically retire. So that was early in the season. So Baylor, they lost by 7 and they lost by 11. This number is 9.5. So, like I said, the number feels like it's in a good spot here in this game between Utah and Baylor. You look at the way Utah's played these last 2 weeks. Other than the BYU loss, they've looked damn impressive. Blowout wins. When they win in blowout fashion. Look at every Utah game this year. 43-10, 63-9, 31-6, 48-14, 42-10, 53-7, 45-14. Like, when they win big. So if you like Utah, just lay the points because they'll probably cover if they win. That's how I would say it. I lean Utah. I mean, I'm not sold on Baylor's defense yet. Got to see it again, even though they played better against UCF. We got CMAC back. CMAC, What do you think here? Utah, Baylor.
I have one thing. Like, how does Baylor stop the run?
Yeah.
Like, I just don't know how they give up. They're horrible. Utah, top 5, over 265 yards a game on the ground. That's going to be tough. This is just a weird kind of matchup, though. Like, a team in Baylor that's horrible, has won a ton of games, hasn't covered a bunch of games this year, against Utah, who's been rolling back-to-back huge home wins. Feels a little bit like a flat spot. I mean, if you think this is cheap, why isn't this 12.5? This is my biggest question here. 9.5. Yeah, I gotta sit with this one a little bit more. This seems like I think this line should be bigger, and this could be a 1-score game. Tough to maybe take.
All right, Florida, Ole Miss. We've got Ole Miss 16.5-point home favorites, 53.5 the total in this game. So Florida, 2 games after the firing of Billy Napier, they rallied the troops, gave it their all against Georgia. And then I was on Kentucky last week against Florida saying, watch them fall flat now after that great effort against Georgia where they lost a close one. And that's exactly what happened. They were not even in the game. They looked comatose on the football field, Florida, last week against Kentucky, losing that game 38-7. Weren't even in the game. Now, can they muster another all-in effort here on the road against Ole Miss? They tried to play spoiler against Georgia. They did give a good effort there. But can they do it here against Ole Miss, who are trying to keep their SEC and playoff hopes very much alive? I'm not so sure they can, because you look at Florida. Remember that Georgia performance where they stepped up? That was at home. Look at what they've done on the road. 38-7 loss at Kentucky, 34-17 loss at Texas A&M, 26-7 loss at Miami, 20-10 loss at LSU, double-digit losses, all 4 of them. And they've been shredded in some of these games too. 34 points to A&M, 38 points to Boise and Kentucky last week. So maybe this Florida defense has run out of gas. Team total over 34.5 is what I think I like here with Ole Miss. I think Trinidad Chambliss should be able to have success. Florida's been giving up 35 multiple times on the road this year. So I think that's the way I'd look at it. Ole Miss team total here, over 34.5. CMAC, what do you think?
I don't know here. Everything doesn't want you to be on Florida in this spot. Like, it just seems like a slam dunk for Ole Miss, who's been cruising. The big win against Oklahoma, South Carolina, Citadel. I don't know. I don't trust their defense. I think it's played well at times. And Florida, nobody wants Florida, right? Lagway just threw 3 picks.
Nobody
He's
does. I
benched.
agree. I mean, it's a lot of. That's why I like the team total, because I could see Ole Miss not covering but still scoring 35. Because I don't think Florida's going to stop them. I don't.
Maybe. I mean, that was a horrible. I think we talked about. I mean, Kentucky was the look last week at home. With that number.
Like, you gave up 233 on the ground to Kentucky. You gave up over. Really, Kentucky got 400 yards of offense against you. That's bad. That's really bad.
I know, but Lagway has been an issue too, and like he just got canned. But I wanted to double check.
Robert, you're right about him laying numbers like this. Kiffin's not always reliable. I know that.
Yeah, I definitely know that. My guy Lane.
Yeah.
Whoever named him Lane, or Monty, his dad. I wonder his mom. But anyways, off the name Lane. Yeah, so I'm going to sit with this one a little bit more. I think it might be on Florida. Ole Miss, too. Big game is next. Their next week game, of course, Mississippi State. Is it at Mississippi State, too? I believe.
The Egg Bowl. Yeah, I think so.
Yes, Egg Bowl action. Yes, at Mississippi State, November 28th.
Yeah, they have a bye after this, but then Mississippi State to end the year. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, next up, we got Mississippi State and Missouri. Missouri 7-point home favorites, 51.5 the total in this game. Yeah, now A&M's really good. Let's remember that. But it was a struggle for Zollers. No question about that. Offense really had a tough day. They only scored 17 points. Zollers 7 for 22. That's terrible completion rate. 77 passing yards. That's it. He didn't look ready. I thought maybe after the bye week, coach him up, get him ready. He didn't look ready. He didn't look like he's quite ready to be a college quarterback at this point. That being said, Mississippi State's defense is really bad at the moment. They haven't been stopping people again, back to the same way they played last year. Could this be a buy low spot on the Missouri offense to bounce back, play better against a weak defense? It's possible. I could lean over because I think Mississippi State can score a little bit. The one thing Mississippi State does have is some offense with Shapen leading them at the quarterback spot. So if you get anything out of Zollers, and for Mississippi State, I can tell you this right now, this is a low total right now for Mississippi State, and I think you're getting a discount on the total because of the quarterback situation for Missouri. But you look at these Mississippi State games, 75, the last three, there's been 83, 73, and 62 points, like way over the total. You're getting a discount because of the quarterback injury to Perbula and the downgrade to Zollers. But if you buy into Zollers, having nowhere to go but up after that dismal performance against A&M, now facing a much weaker, much more susceptible defense, Mississippi State, then to me, I think you can make a case for the over here at 51.5. C-Mac, what do you think here?
This was tough. Missouri back-to-back losses. You talked about the quarterback issues. He did not look good last week. I still think they got a pretty good defense, and they got slapped there early. What was it, 17-0?
Yep.
21-0? I mean, it was but I think they're better than that. I mean, they want their games more if their quarterback keep it in the low 20s. Do you know what I mean? Can they do that here? I don't know. I think Mississippi State, though, their defense has struggled, like you've talked about, but I think they played all right, at times throughout the year. With that quarterback, I don't know. Mississippi State got, we talked about earlier with Georgia. They put up the touchdown. They just kind of got their ass drilled in the second quarter. I think they're feisty here. Normally, I probably would take this number would be even bigger. Seems a pretty good ATS. So I think they could hang around.
Yeah, I want to as well. I'm worried about their defense, but hey, maybe Zollers can't, do as well against it as I think. And yeah, I lean dog. I'm not laying it with Missouri. I can tell you that. No chance. All right, South Carolina and Texas A&M. Texas A&M 19.5-point home favorites, 47.5 the total in this game. I mean, this team looks damn good right now. I mean, we have to give them their due. They played very solid. There's a big number, though. Really big number. This is the biggest number they've laid since they were laying 16 against Mississippi State. Now, they did win and cover. They won 31-9 in that game. But this is a pretty big number against a South Carolina team that, they only lost by 7 at home to Bama. They lost by 16 at Ole Miss in their last game. But that was a reasonably close game early. And then Ole Miss kind of broke it open late and turned a 20-14 lead in the fourth quarter into a 30-14 win. So they turned a 6-point lead into a 16-point win. But a game that was pretty close for portions of it. Lenore Sellers has just been all over the place as far as his play throughout the course of the season. The bye week, will it help? South Carolina does have extra time to prepare. So Shane Beamer's got that on his side going into this game here against Texas A&M. The key here for South Carolina is, will they be able to contain this, at times, what can be a very dynamic run-heavy offense here that A&M can throw at you? When you look at this A&M team, they've been able to average 204 on the ground, 5.2 yards per carry. And South Carolina's run defense, it's not great. 4.1 yards per carry allowed, 153 rushing yards per game allowed. That does concern me here. So this is another one. There's a few of these here where, and it is, that's a good point by Ross Pitts as far as the revenge angle, because last year, South Carolina, 44-20. They spanked A&M last November toward the end of the season, 44-20 beatdown in that game. So major revenge spot. It feels like the matchup as far as the offense should work here for A&M. They should be able to run it with success because South Carolina struggled against it. But the spot screams South Carolina off a bye, and it's a hell of a lot of points that you're getting here with South Carolina. So kind of a tough one. Matchup says A&M, spot says South Carolina. Which one do you value more? Probably tells you where you land in this game. C-Mac, what do you think?
I think you feel like A&M take their team total. Do you want to lay this many with them? It's getting a little rich with this team. Who's not taking this fucking team? They're 9-0, right? Shit. Yeah. They've got problems with these numbers, though, throughout the year. This offense does look good, and the defense.
South Carolina's covered 3 in a row against them, and the last time at A&M, it was 30-17 for A&M, and that gets you a cover if South Carolina loses by that kind of margin here.
South Carolina is just flawed. Yeah. But they've been able to hang in football games.
First half, that's a good option. You could split it up at least first half, South Carolina, and full game instead of just full game. You can get first half in this game on South Carolina at, let me just see what the current spread is on that. South Carolina first half is plus 10.5.
Yeah. I usually like that at home, but I don't mind it on the road. Texas A&M, I don't want them. That's all I could say. Maybe this offense just keeps going. So maybe they, and at home. They play like, this is huge too. This just seems a little bit flat. They play like what? Who do they have here? Because then they play Texas at end of the year. I know that. Yeah. Sanford, is that who they play?
Yeah, they play an FCS team. I know. And
yeah. At the end of the year.
Sanford and then Texas, the big one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can't wait for that Texas game. That should be fun.
That will be
a lot of love, a lot of A&M.
Yep. A lot on the line potentially in that game as well, no question. All right, next up, Arkansas, LSU. LSU 4.5-point home favorites, 55.5 the total. This is kind of the way I felt about Florida last week against Kentucky. They got smoked by Kentucky after they left it all out on the field for first game after the coaching change against Georgia. That could happen to LSU here for Frank Wilson. Now, they played hard, but they played stupid. You know what I mean? Against Alabama.
Bless you.
They played stupid. Mistakes, pre-snap penalties, turnovers. I'm fed up with Nussmeier. I don't blame Wilson one bit for benching him. I'm fed up with the guy. He's just had a very disappointing season. Now, the offensive line sucks, too, for LSU. Let's not forget that. But he's got to be better. He's a veteran quarterback. You can't play better than that. I don't blame him one bit for going to the Van Buren boy, Van Buren, at quarterback for LSU in that game. Now, apparently, Nussmeier hasn't necessarily lost his starting job. There's still a chance he starts here, but I'm not laying anything with LSU after what I saw last week. And I worry that, they had their big effort in the first game after Kelly got fired. I worry about that duplicating itself here. And Arkansas, you look at what they've done here in some of these recent games that they've played. They've shown a little pulse for Petrino taking over at the interim spot. You look at these last few games; they've been competitive. The A&M game, they lost by 3. Tennessee lost by 3. Auburn lost by 9, and they led that game and let it slip away. And then they lost a heartbreaker, back and forth, high-scoring affair with Mississippi State, 38-35. One thing Arkansas can do is move the football, and defense still is not good, but you can counter that and say LSU's offense isn't very good right now. So who's going to win that matchup? Talon Green was banged up a bit, but looks like he's going to play and appears to be healthy and good to go ahead of this game against LSU. And it is worth mentioning Arkansas off a bye, extra time to prepare for them. So this Razorbacks, Pig Suey for me, plus 4.5. I'm not laying anything with LSU. C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, what time is this game? 3:30?
Yeah, it's not a night game in Baton Rouge. This is 12:45 early, so that's not as big a home field with LSU with that game being early.
LSU's defense has played a lot better, but Arkansas's defense, it seems like they could give it up. Arkansas 7-1 to the over. The lone one, 68.5, 34-31, Savannah against Tennessee. It just seems like they're in this game, that it's tight, and there's a bunch of points. This goes over. And we've seen LSU's defense struggle a little bit before. Even last week where they played all right, where their offense was horrible, and you talked about the offense looks lost. Can they score points against this shitty Arkansas defense? Whoever the fuck plays quarterback? If they can't do that, then they got issues. But I think it's light. I think it goes over.
All right, next up, we've got Maryland and Illinois in Big Ten action. Illinois, 14-point home favorites. The total here, 53.5 across the board. You look at this matchup here, Illinois, obviously, with the high expectations coming into this season. Obviously, I thought they were a little bit overrated coming into the season, but no doubt they had big expectations. They're off a bye week. They beat Rutgers 35-13. The game before their bye week. We'll see if they can keep it going here against a Maryland team that has really kind of hit the wall here these last couple of games. Getting blown out by Indiana is one thing, but you're pick 'em against Rutgers, and you got pretty much whipped in that game for the most part. Malik Washington struggled through the air. He did run it, but his passing game was not very good. They got ripped big time on the ground by Antoine Raymond, who went off for 240 rushing yards against Maryland's defense last week for Rutgers. That's not exactly what you want to see. One thing about Illinois is, their defense at times has given up some points. We saw it against Washington. We saw it against Ohio State, Purdue, USC, Indiana. They all put up points against Illinois. Can Maryland do that? Can we trust Maryland to do that? That's going to be the question going into this game. And Illinois, against weaker teams, we trust them to score. 35 against Rutgers, 43 against Purdue, 34 against USC, 45 against Duke. They could probably put up points here. So I kind of think Illinois off the bye week scores a lot of points, but I think I might isolate their team total than trust Maryland to.
What is it?
33.5 with team total for Illinois. I think I could get there with that.
Yeah, Maryland's just kind of falling off.
That's a bad defense. Again, what else?
It is a bad defense.
Honestly, yeah. He never has a good defense.
That's true. They hung, though, in those early games a little bit. But they had good turnovers in those games, especially early on, like in the first half before they folded like a cheap suit. But, off the bye, it seems like Illinois probably gets 35 in this spot. Yeah, it's just a lean for me here. I don't know if I get involved. What's the weather like? A little wind action. You on mute?
Not that bad, actually. It's light
15?
wind, moderate, but not heavy. So it'll be a minimal impact, I think, on the passing games. All right, Michigan, Northwestern. Michigan 11.5-point road favorites, 41 the total in this game. Michigan is off a bye week, but they've been just bad as double-digit favorites, especially in Big Ten play. Like 3 times they've been double-digit favorites. They're 0-3 against the spread. They didn't cover against Wisconsin at home, and Wisconsin's pretty bad. Michigan State, they didn't cover on the road. And at Purdue at home last game, 21-point favorites. They won by 5. Had to hang on to win that game. So, yeah, I can't lay it. Can't lay this many with Michigan. They are off a bye. That's the one hesitation. I kind of want to come back to Northwestern. I know they didn't cover against USC, but they were in that game. They just couldn't get stops. You got to give Jade Mayava and the USC offense credit. Northwestern couldn't really slow them down.
That touchdown was a backbreaker.
The one with the
pick, come on.
They put the punter in there to throw the football. You're right. Lincoln Riley, I should say, up to his old tricks there, and took Northwestern totally by surprise. And it almost looked like that was kind of a haymaker they didn't recover from.
Well, no, but the pick in the goal line where he fumbles it would have been 21-21 at half, right?
Fumbled it back, Northwestern. USC got it
that
back.
Was it.
That was a big swing. That was
the swing.
Put it this way, it's Northwestern or pass for me. My only hesitation is Michigan's got the bye week. But I'm not laying it with Michigan. They're 0-3 against the spread as a double-digit Big Ten favorite. Can't do it. Won't do it. C-Mac, what do you think?
Totally agree. This seems like an ugly, under-type game. Yeah. Just horrible. It's tough. It's
Wrigley Field, by the way. It's Wrigley Field.
Field. Yep. It should be cold and windy there, I'm sure. So I like these defenses for the most part. I still watching Stone makes me sick. Some of these quarterbacks are what we watch, but then I'm like, God damn, you got money on these guys and they fucking suck.
And it's tough to watch. I get it. Yeah, I do.
So yeah, I like Northwestern here. I don't know. This is a wait for me. Wait. Lean under.
All right, next up, we've got TCU, BYU. BYU, 5.5-point home favorites, 52.5 the total in this game. All right. Well, I don't know. I was one of the surprising results to me last week was TCU losing to Iowa State. Iowa State with no secondary, injuries galore, and the offense kind of sputtered. Well, they moved the ball. It's just they turned it over. 2 interceptions from Hoover, Josh Hoover, the quarterback. They were able to move it 432 total yards compared to just 272 yards for Iowa State. But Iowa State, ended up taking advantage a little bit more. They also had a special teams punt return touchdown, Iowa State, which won them the game. And that was the difference in the end. So very disheartening loss for TCU. But I kind of want to take TCU here because BYU, it's the old, bubble burst theory, right? You're undefeated, everything's rolling, and now you have that first loss, and you don't just lose a close one, you lose in blowout fashion against Texas Tech 29-7. Maybe that's not always easy to. And I remember BYU last year, they were rolling along, and then they suffered that first loss, and they were never quite the same after that. I remember it. Yeah, they lost to Kansas 17-13, and then they lost the very next week at Arizona State 28-23. So there was a hangover for BYU last year after losing that late season game. And I could see that being the case here. Now, I know it's Provo, BYU home game late on a Saturday night. That's often been a good spot for them over the years, but I don't think it's going to be as good a spot here. I think TCU, for me, plus the points. I'm going to be on them here. C-Mac, what do you think? TCU, BYU.
Yeah, TCU on the road has hung in a lot of games, even though just that one Kansas State where they lost. It was a bad second half, too, a little bit. Yeah, there's a lot of points in that second half in that game. You got to think BYU's off. TCU off back-to-back unders, too. Lower scoring games, 23-17. This makes me want to take an over here. You got to think BYU's going to be able to move the football, right? Get back to a little bit at home here.
Yeah, I would back them better. I mean, let's remember Texas Tech's got one of the best defense in the Big 12. You do have to remember that. Yep.
I think so. I mean, all 3 levels were on full effect for Texas Tech. in that game. So, yeah, I like to back BYU at home off a loss. Can Hoover keep him in this game with the weapons that he has, some of the receivers? Yeah, so as of now, I'm wait here.
All right, next up, we've got West Virginia and Arizona State. It is Arizona State, 11.5-point home favorites, 47.5 the total in this game. You've got Arizona State off a bye week. Jeff Sims is the quarterback for the rest of the season with Sam Levitt. I almost called him Sam Hartman. Sam Levitt ruled out for the rest of the season for Arizona State. So it's Jeff Sims' team at the quarterback spot for the rest of the season. He's a veteran. He's been around forever. I don't always trust him. I will say this, though. Last time we saw Jeff Sims play for Arizona State before their bye against Iowa State, it was a solid game. Go on the road, beat Iowa State 24-19. He ran for 228. He ran all over Iowa State's defense in that game. Can he have that same success here against West Virginia? And when you look at the West Virginia defensive numbers, they're not terrible against the run, but not great either. So we'll see if he can have that success running the ball, because this is definitely going to become more of a run-heavy offense now, Arizona State, with Jeff Sims at quarterback. It is Arizona State off a bye week. Extra time to prepare for Kenny Dillingham. That's a positive. But West Virginia enters this game with some real momentum. They almost beat TCU and lost by 6. They won outright as double-digit road dogs at Houston. They not dismantled, but they won and covered against Colorado last week. They've covered 3 straight, 4 of their last 5. Could this be too many points here with West Virginia? Yes. Scotty Fox has given them at least a little bit of a boost in the passing game at quarterback and been a jolt for the offense and a positive, since Scotty Fox has taken over that spot for West Virginia. Let me see Arizona State off the top of my head as bigger favorites this year. It's been hit or miss. They did cover against Texas State, but Houston, they were 7.5-point home favorites. They lost that game outright. That's a tough one because, again, the spot definitely is an advantage for ASU. They're off the bye, but I don't know if I want to lay this many. And West Virginia's been give Rich Rod credit. Rich Rod, it started off tough. A lot of new faces, new players, new systems, a lot of injuries earlier in the year, and now you're starting to put some competitive performances together. Maybe it is a few too many points. So kind of back and forth, but I'd probably take the points before laying them. C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, with Sims a quarterback, I mean, they're just going to run the football here. Like, if you're West Virginia, even though they're off the bye, Arizona State, it's like this defense has got to sell out, right? Like, make him throw the rock.
Make him throw it, 100%.
Yeah.
I know that. Rich Rod's got to know that.
Yeah, for sure. The last 3 weeks, even the close loss to TCU, watching that game, they were in it. Fox has been all right. He did have a couple picks, and then it didn't matter last game against Colorado. Still just, barely covered there? Yeah, 6.5. So he's got to take care of the ball here. Yeah, I think it's too many. West Virginia. It's not the easiest travel here. Arizona State, they've played well at home. But they've been such good as dogs at home in a spot like this. Laying 11.5. Yeah, I lean West Virginia.
All right, next up, we go to the Big Ten again. Iowa, USC. USC, 6.5-point home favorites, 49.5 the total here in this one. The only thing that I'm worried about is Iowa hangover after the Oregon game. That was rain the whole game. Very physical game. You gut it out. You think you maybe have them beat with the Gronowski touchdown run with 1:51 left, and then Oregon goes down the field and ends up kicking the game-winning field goal with 3 seconds left to snatch the victory away from Iowa. Can they rally the troops, go out to the West Coast to LA, the Coliseum, and have another strong effort here? That remains the question. The USC defense continues to have some semblance of issues, though. We have to remember that. You look at the way they played, they've given up some plays and yards. They've given up 4.3 yards per carry, which is 81st in the country. And when you think of the fact that Mark Gronowski is a very good running quarterback, maybe that quarterback run game, could be problematic somewhat here for USC's defense in this game. But I want to take Iowa here. I do. But my only concern here is coming off that grueling, gutted out, fall short game against Oregon. Can you ramp it up one more week for a road trip out there against USC? And the athleticism edge, as Andrew G mentions. Yes, athleticism edge, especially with the offense led by Maava, with Lane and Lemon, and just some of the speed they can throw at Iowa's defense. Can they match up with that? That's going to be the big question. Although you look at Iowa's schedule so far this year, and they've actually hung tough against some of the better teams they've played. Indiana, 5-point loss. Oregon, 2-point loss. Those were by far their 2 toughest games of the year. Right in them. Right there with Indiana and Oregon in both games. Now, both were at Iowa City. This one's on the road. A little bit different. But I'm trying to talk myself into Iowa here early in the week. C-Mac, what do you think? Iowa, USC.
It is after just a tough loss at home. And we talked about that last week with Oregon. I think they looked fine, even though with the Speedsters they could get beat. God damn it. It's just this travel spot for that game. Because, I love a better defense with the points, but man, come on. What the fuck here? That's Iowa to me. I think it was SC. No, it's kind of glad they went kind of a little bit big last week, and they're at home, and they have a great offense. That's for sure. I just think Iowa's in this game. I think it's just not easy against better teams for this SC defense to be laying points like this.
By the way, opposing quarterbacks are only completing 56.4% of their passes against Iowa's secondary. So you got to give Iowa's secondary some credit. That's a pretty solid unit. Like I say, I know that that offense is great for USC, but I think they're going to be in tough here. Iowa secondary's been good.
They have been good. I mean, SC's numbers aren't that bad.
Yeah.
For much as we get on the defense a little bit, and I think they've looked better the last couple of weeks. Now it's Nebraska and at home against Northwestern. So, I mean, they had that good win at home against Michigan, 31-13.
That's another thing, too. This schedule stinks here for USC. Look at the wins. Northwestern, Nebraska, Michigan's overrated, in my opinion. Like Michigan State, Purdue. Like, where's the really good win here for USC? What is their best win? Michigan?
Michigan, for sure,
so.
at home. Yeah.
I like
they're
Iowa.
off of, they go on a bye.
Shits about the travel spot. I think parents can rally the troops for another big game here. Another chance to play spoiler.
God, they've been pretty consistent for me as dogs. And SC has the bye, and then they play at Oregon.
Yeah.
Coming up.
Yeah. USC's got Oregon next. Yeah. I'm talking myself into Iowa as we speak. Yeah.
I like their defense. That's for sure to keep them in this game. And their offense, I think, can score enough. To see these games versus Oregon, I know both those games were at home. Or was that one at Indiana? Double check. Was that at Indiana?
And Oregon games for Iowa.
They were at home.
In Iowa. Both at home. Yeah.
Yeah, they were both at home. Damn. Yeah. I'm leaning that way. But.
All right, Purdue and Washington. We've got Washington 17-point home favorites, 54.5 the total in this game. There's expected to be rain here in Washington on Saturday in Seattle, so just make sure you're aware of that. 90%. Wow. So pretty good chance we see rain. We'll have to see what happens here as far as both of these teams here. It looks like Coleman, the running back, is banged up here a little bit for Washington. Barry Odom's team, I usually like taking points with him in this range, but it's long travel. They're 0-4 straight up on the road this year, although they did cover at Michigan the last time we saw them. Keep that in mind. Washington off a loss to Wisconsin, looking to bounce back. We'll see if they're able to. Washington is this kind of a favorite. They've been double-digit favorites. Washington State they covered and Cal Davis, but they're one time as a double-digit favorite in the Big Ten. They lost to Wisconsin last week. I'd probably lean slightly Purdue, but not anxious to bet Purdue with the travel spot and the weather being what it's going to be. C-Mac, what do you think?
I know Odom, I want to take points. I think this is a shithole spot. Like, this is not good for them. I think you take Washington, lay it here, or look at their team total. They've been really good in these spots at home, whether, Illinois, 42-25, 38-19 against Rutgers. I think it could be similar. One thing with Purdue, a little bit, even though they have covered, they turn the ball over like crazy. It makes me sick to watch this football team at times. But going forward, I think they're a bet to take. I just don't like it here. Seattle, the rain, it just seems like a shitty spot. So I think it's Washington or nothing.
New Mexico State, Tennessee. Tennessee, 39.5-point home favorite, 61.5 the total here in this game. This is one of those weird games. We get these from the SEC teams late in the season where they're playing a game against a non-conference opponent late in the year. And this is the situation here with Tennessee in this one taking on New Mexico State. We'll see how it plays out. But the first thing that I think of here is that Tennessee is probably going to be able to put up a big number here against New Mexico State. I know New Mexico State's defense has played well at times, but you can't compare Kennesaw and Liberty and Missouri State to Tennessee's offense. And let's not forget, we've also seen New Mexico State give up 30 to Liberty, 35 to Western Kentucky, 38 to New Mexico, 49 to Louisiana Tech. Tennessee clears all of those teams on the offensive side of the football, and I think they'll put up a big number. New Mexico State's offense, though, it's slowly gotten better later in the year with Fife. Fife is always prone to some interceptions as well, Logan Fife, but it's a big number. And this Tennessee defense, now, this is obviously a weaker Conference USA opponent, but the Tennessee defense, this reminds me of the UAB game. If you remember, Tennessee played UAB back in September. It was a non-conference game. They got into the 50s, but they still gave up 24 points in that game.
That could happen here.
They're
secondary.
For me. That's what I'm getting at. That's the bet.
Right.
Over for me, 61.5. I think it flies over. I think something like 48-20, 48-21 for, or even 48-14 for Tennessee. If you want to keep New Mexico to less, like Tennessee's going to get into the 40s here, and you'll I think get enough from New Mexico State to get over that total. C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, like even, who they play, East Tennessee State or whatever, they scored 17. It was 17. But it seems like even in this second half, there could be some junk points. So, yeah, I kind of agree with you're over there. Tennessee should get their team total as well. New Mexico State, here's the thing. They'll be down. They can't run the ball. This is the team we talked about, the worst out of all. Like, I think they average 68 yards a game on the ground. And then you got to put it in.
Tennessee's weaker defensively against the pass.
Of course, against the pass. Yep. So they're not going to – exactly. And they're going to be down. So Fife's just going to be throwing it. And he can make mistakes. But shout out to – and this is a huge number because, you think they scored 2 or 3 touchdowns. They could stay within this, just like UAB did in that game. They fought back, got it. Close game, still lost against Kennesaw. That did not look good early. Best bet of the week. New Mexico State came roaring back. Shout out to Mexico State. You on mute?
Yeah, and not the biggest look ahead for Tennessee because they have Florida next week, and Florida's kind of tailed off. So, like I said, I think we'll see points. I know New Mexico State plays slow, but Tennessee makes up for that, one of the fastest-paced teams going. So, like I said, I think we'll see plenty of points there in that matchup. All right, our last game for this edition of college football hitting the books. We've got San Diego State and Boise State. San Diego State, 2.5-point home favorites, 41.5 the total in this game. Wow, San Diego State favored here. Now, I know it's in San Diego. They've played, obviously, very good football at home, 4-0 this year on their home field. But they are coming off a blowout loss to Hawaii, 38-6. Look, that was just a perfect storm. Alejado and the Hawaii Warriors have been good at home lately. San Diego State was probably due for a stinker, and boy, did they stink, especially on offense. Man, Jaden Denegal, horrific. 10 for 27, 132 passing yards.
Defense too, though.
Yep.
That hasn't been pretty dominant against bad teams. They got gashed.
You got to give Hawaii credit. Like I said, they've been good at home, and San Diego State took advantage of them and ended up. And Hawaii took advantage of that and ended up beating San Diego State soundly, almost 400 total yards of offense for Hawaii in that game. So a big bounce back spot here for San Diego State, and they've been good at home. But you also have to remember that the Cal win, I guess, was pretty good, but Stony Brook, Colorado State, Wyoming were the other home wins. So not exactly the best of competition.
Yeah.
Boise, I almost can't believe what I saw out of Boise before their bye week. 30-7, getting not just beaten but smoked
at home
by a backup quarterback too, Carson Conklin, because they benched Warner.
Yeah,
quarterback for Fresno State. Conklin,
long overdue, by the way. Thank you.
It is long overdue, and he actually played okay for them in that game. I do want to mention, though, big reason for the loss was Madsen got hurt, and Max Cutforth had to take over at quarterback.
He was so bad.
And he was not good. 14 of 29, 106 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. This is a really tricky game because I don't think at the moment Maddox Madsen's going to play. So it could be Max Cutforth again. San Diego State's been good at home, but they haven't beaten anybody at home. Boise as a backup quarterback, but you got a good coach in Spencer Danielson, and you're off a loss and a bye week and extra time to prepare for the team that's been the class of the Mountain West for a decade or more, getting points. I got to admit, I lean Boise at this number. I do. Off the bye, hopefully Cutforth can take steps forward and play better. I don't know if I bet the game. I'm just saying my first thought here is lean Boise State off a bye week and a blowout loss. I like them in that kind of situation. C-Mac, what do you think?
Well, that is good for them. But if they do it, it's got to be their defense. It's kind of got to shut down the San Diego State team. That was the biggest thing, that this just that schedule and who they played. Like, the wins are good. The defense has been very good. But it's like fucking nobody. Colorado State, Wyoming, yada, yada, yada. I can't Cutforth. I just haven't seen enough. Like, I think people are going to see Boise State and want the 3. I don't know if I can do it. What I saw from him was not good. 14 of 29, 106, touchdown and 2 picks. They just couldn't get anything going. And for Fresno State to move the ball on them at home, this wasn't on the road. They were at home. Was a little bit shocking. You got to think they play better, but it's showing in this total. It's low as all hell, because you got to think San Diego State plays a lot better defense, where they've been great here at home. So, yeah, just I'm off as of now.
All right, there we
go. Should be good though. Good game.
Very, very fascinating.
Huge for San Diego State.
So many moving parts. Huge to that game. Yeah.
Yes, they win. They're like locked, almost in.
Yeah.
They win that game against Boise.
They are 4. They're both 4-1. They're tied for first. There's a first place showdown in the Mountain West. 4-1, both of them atop the Mountain West Conference. And Hawaii's not out of it either at 4-2 in the Mountain West. What a season for Timmy Chang and his crew! Wow, outstanding. It's great to see that. Hawaii, I always want to see that program do well. It's almost like they're isolated from the rest of the continent, out on their own little island there, and nice to see them doing well. Yeah.
You got to love to bet on that island, though, right?
Yeah, that's right.
That's where you take it. On the island.
Stuff. Great show again, as always. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Zoe, Nick Alvento, FB Gotti, Myron Kidd, Coin, Andrew G, Ross Pitts, Jorge Herrera, Bindingo. Appreciate everyone there. Some Solution, NHL All-Star Bets, Robert Carlson, Gorky. Thank you, Gorky, as well, for the donos as well. Kenny Woo Woo Woo. Everyone else in between, we thank you so much for joining us here on this edition of the Hitting the Books show. C-Mac, any last words?
Nothing. Just hit the like button all the way out, and let's stay rolling. College football has been pretty good. After like the first 3 weeks, they were horrible for me, but just kind of like this. It's just been good every week. And I think it's the work that we put in here, as the year goes on. And everything, and we have all the shit now too, every stat in the book and everything else. So we should roll. But that's it. Let's get out of here. I know you're a busy man. Become a member if you can. Fridays we go over all the small games. We touch on NFL, everything that's going on. That's my favorite every week, guys. I love those games. I don't know about you. I love those fucking games.
Yeah, the group of 5 games.
Yeah.
We always have some
group of 5 games
on the group of 5 action, no doubt. So Wednesdays and Fridays are our members only hitting the books shows for members only. So get on board. Become a member of the channel. We appreciate it very much to join us on Wednesdays and Fridays at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. For everybody, free for all, we will have a college basketball hitting the books tomorrow on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific to break down the college basketball card. So we got that tomorrow. That's free for everybody. And then we're back Wednesday and Friday with our members only hitting the books shows Wednesday, Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. That's a wrap. Hit the like button on the way out. For Connor Mack, I'm Ian Cameron. Enjoy the games and good luck in college football week 12 action. And we will be back with you, tomorrow for college basketball hitting the books, but back for this show, college football hitting the books once again next Monday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. Until then, class dismissed.